Hold! Fang Chen shouted in a deep voice, throwing his arm out to stop the 9 Nether Demon Lord and others behind him. His gaze, sharp as lightning, fixed on the desperate emperor of the Southern Heaven Realm. Once upon a time, in 2 ancient wars, this very central emperor had personally led the giant clan, bringing endless calamity and disaster to the land of Zhongtu. And now, at last, it was his turn to reach the end of his rope. Fang Chen's expression was calm as he asked, "What do you want to say?" The Central Emperor's bloodshot eyes fixed deeply on Fang Chen, and he spoke in a hoarse voice. Is Zai Jiang still alive? So it turned out he was asking about the whereabouts of that imperial princess Zai Jiang. Upon hearing this, Fang Chen merely replied lightly, "Not dead for now." As the words fell, the Central Emperor actually raised his head, sighed softly toward the heavens, his tone full of regret. What a pity. H.M. Fang Chen's brows suddenly raised, and a sharp glint flashed in his eyes. From his tone, it seemed this Central Emperor almost wished that Princess Zai Jiang had died at his hands. Could it be that killing that imperial princess would bring some heaven-shaking trouble? In a daze, Fang Chen suddenly recalled that when the Grand Libationer learned he had captured Princess Zai Jiang alive, he had solemnly and meaningfully warned him to treat this woman well. It seemed this imperial princess truly harbored some extraordinary secrets. Fang Chen sneered coldly in his heart. The Central Emperor had reminded him he must not forget to hunt down that woman later. He quickly collected his thoughts, his expression as placid as an ancient well, and said calmly, "Is there anything else you want to say?" The Central Emperor, upon hearing this, curled the corner of his mouth into a strange arc and slowly uttered a few words. "Have you heard of the Dark Tide?" Fang Chen's brows involuntarily raised slightly once more. The Dark Tide again. He had heard this name several times already, but still did not know what it truly was. After a moment's thought, he nodded slightly and said in a deep voice, "It is an unknown catastrophe that destroys many small worlds." Upon hearing this, the Central Emperor actually chuckled, his laughter brimming with undisguised mockery. "Destroys small worlds. Does your Zhang to have some colossal misunderstanding about the Dark Tide?" The Dark Tide, it is what once destroyed the Daqian Divine Empire that your human race personally founded. Fang Chen's heart suddenly leaped. His expression changed slightly as he tightly furrowed his brows. The Daqian Divine Empire founded by the human race. In an instant, he understood what era that was. In the past, the purple lightning artifact spirit, that is, the holy angel had once spoken to him about those dust-laden ancient years. At that time, the ancient cloud wilderness saint pioneered a new cultivation system through which the human race rapidly rose, suppressed all other races, and became the sole ruler of this world. Presumably, this so-called Daqian Divine Empire was an ancient power established in that era. However, the holy angel had also said that later, an earth-shattering event occurred, causing the once ascendant human race to quickly decline. Could that so-called great event be this Dark Tide? However, to what degree of power that distant Daqian Divine Empire had risen, they could no longer know. Thus, they had no concept of the true might that this Dark Tide represented. Fang Chen's eyes revealed deep contemplation as he murmured under his breath, "Daqian Divine Empire." A flash of insight sparked in his mind, and he suddenly thought of that void panorama. Within that vast scroll, among the 4 great realms, there was a major world named Nanqian. Nanqian, Daqian. Could there be some hidden connection between the two? While pondering hard, Fang Chen flipped his hand and took out a crystal, clear square jade disc. Upon activating it, a 3-dimensional image of the Myriad Heavens and worlds immediately transformed into flowing light and projected into midair. His gaze shifted to the southwestern corner, intently fixating on the shimmering fragment marked with the 2 characters Nanqian as he reached out and stroked his chin. Then he began to meticulously examine the small fragments, some bright and others dim, surrounding the Nanqian fragment. At first, just a cursory glance revealed nothing abnormal to Fang Chen. However, when he calmed his mind and observed carefully once more, he vaguely sensed something amiss. He slowly extended a finger and gently dragged the projection of a dim, lightless fragment near the Nanqian fragment. After several attempts, Fang Chen was astonished to discover that the edge of this dark fragment could perfectly match the eastern edge of the Nanqian fragment, fitting seamlessly together. Under his gentle dragging, the 2 fragments merged completely, forming a larger, complete world. Fang Chen's pupils suddenly dilated, his eyes widening sharply as he gazed at the enormous void panorama before him. Even his breath instantly became rapid and scorching. He had vaguely guessed an extremely astonishing possibility. Meanwhile, the several sages who had been silently observing at the side also paled dramatically the moment they saw the edges of those two world fragments perfectly align. Some had their pupils violently contract, others couldn't help but gasp in shock, and some trembled violently as if struck by lightning. For they too had simultaneously guessed that terrifying possibility, one capable of overturning all understanding. Fang Chen forcibly suppressed the shock in his heart, forced himself to sober up, restrained the surging emotional tide that threatened to erupt, and began dragging the thousand us suspended fragments of the myriad heavens and worlds continuously, under the incredulous gazes of all present. One after another, the fragments were actually perfectly pieced together. Then, with the four great worlds and the divine capital as the center, they surprisingly formed 5 enormous, independent, and complete large fragments. Finally, these 5 massive fragments drew together once more, joining together to form a round, seamless, complete pattern. And at the very center of this pattern, 4 vast and ancient characters were prominently inscribed. Daqian Divine Empire. Fang Chen stared intently at that map, his eyes fixed, as tumultuous waves surged within his heart. Behind him, the sages either staggered backward or cried out in utter horror. The myriad heavens and worlds turned out to be our human race's Daqian Divine Empire from back then. Zhangtu, the Hell Realm, the Heavenly Realm, and also Nanqian, Wuku, the Heavenly Court, the Sin Realm, the Divine Capital. They are all parts of the Daqian Divine Empire. How vast was the nation of our human race in the past? At this moment, everyone was utterly shocked beyond measure by this sudden heaven-shaking discovery. So it turned out that the boundless myriad heavens and worlds in their minds had once been a complete world. And moreover, it was a magnificent world personally created by their human race. Fang Chen was equally shocked, his heart lake-churning non-stop. But what shook him to the bone even more was that such a vast and unimaginably grand world had been ruthlessly shattered into over 1,000 fragments by that so-called dark tide. What exactly was that dark tide? A bone-chilling shudder, like a venomous snake, instantly spread throughout Fang Chen's entire body. This cold made his body extremely stiff, and even breathing became especially difficult. If the ancient giants of before had already plunged all of Zhangtu into deep despair, then before the calamity known as the Dark Tide, all that remained for Zhangtu was a pale and powerless sense of insignificance. Facing the ancient giants, the people of Zhangtu could still grit their teeth and resist to the death. But facing the dark tide, it was as if a mortal body stood helpless before the collapse of the heavens and the destruction of the world. How could a mere Zhangtu possibly withstand a disaster of this magnitude? The sages were also collectively plunged into that bottomless abyss of profound shock. Compared to that former Daqian Divine Empire, Zhangtu was merely like a tiny wave in a vast and boundless sea, so small and fragile that it could be shattered with a single blow. Yet even so, the Daqian Divine Empire had been mercilessly shattered into dust by the dark tide. Then what could the current Zhangtu possibly use to resist? For a moment, the entire venue fell into a deathly, silent hush, as if everyone's throat was tightly seized by this sudden despair. Only the Central Emperor suddenly burst into unrestrained laughter. Ha ha ha. Now you realize what you are about to face. So what if you have defeated our southern celestial realm? Before long, you too will be reduced to ashes, following in our footsteps. The faces of the crowd turned utterly grim, and a deep sense of bewilderment filled their eyes. They had thought that once they overthrew the celestial realm, Central Earth would usher in an era of peace and prosperity for 10,000 years. But who could have imagined that in the end, an epic catastrophe of irresistible magnitude was still lying in wait for them? Then what was the meaning of sacrificing so many lives, staking everything to fight the ancient giants to the death? An immense sense of defeat, like creeping vines, wrapped tightly around the hearts of every sage. Traces of bitterness and deep self-mockery interwove on their faces, impossible to shake off. A bitter smile involuntarily tugged at the corner of Fang Chen's lips. Had he known earlier how terrifying the dark tide would be, would he still have risked everything to resist the ancient giants as he did before? Perhaps he would not have. But just as his spirit was sinking, Fang Chen suddenly sensed something amiss. He abruptly narrowed his eyes, fixing a sharp gaze on the Central Emperor, and demanded sternly, "Since the dark tide is about to descend and death is certain, why did your southern and celestial realm go to such pains to invade our central Earth? Why didn't you just lie down and wait to die?" He had detected the inconsistency with extreme acuity. At the same time, a huge doubt that had lingered in his heart for ages instantly surfaced. This invasion of Central Earth by the ancient giants was completely unlike any probing attack in the past 10,000 years. They were absolutely desperate, madly intent on occupying Central Earth at any cost. During the final decisive battle, the situation was already extremely unfavorable, yet the Central Emperor still sent tens of thousands of ordinary giants down to their deaths. Those were all sources of future strength for the ancient giants. If they lost this gamble, the entire southern celestial realm would be utterly crippled, with no hope of recovering its vitality in 1,000 years. This was clearly staking the entire destiny of the southern celestial realm on a fight to the death with Central Earth. Why were they so insane, so set on completely occupying Central Earth? Could it be that within Central Earth lies something that can help them withstand the legendary Dark Tide? The Central Emperor's laughter came to an abrupt halt. His face darkened as he said coldly, "Do you think I would tell you?" Hearing this, Fang Chen was thoroughly convinced of his speculation. The southern celestial realm's all-out assault on Central Earth was definitely aimed at that crucial object capable of resisting the Dark Tide. In other words, the Dark Tide is not entirely unstoppable. Within this desperate abyss, there still hides a sliver of hope. Otherwise, why would the ancient giants stake the fate of their entire race on this struggle? Fang Chen's thoughts instantly reignited. He rallied his spirits and declared loudly to the crowd, "Everyone, do not despair." Having just heard the exchange between Fang Chen and the Central Emperor, the crowd suddenly awakened to the truth. Indeed, the Dark Tide is not entirely irresistible. They still had hope. HMPH, seeing the people of Central Earth regain their spirits, the Central Emperor immediately let out a disdainful sneer. "Rest assured, you will never withstand the Dark Tide. I will watch with my own eyes as Central Earth is finally destroyed by this Dark Tide. Ha ha ha." Everyone fixed icy glares upon him, their killing intent surging. Yet, as much as they wanted to kill him, they were deeply wary of the 9 sacred realm formations under his control. Seeing their expressions, the Central Emperor grew even more smug. Throwing his head back, he laughed heartily. "I love seeing you all like this, wanting to kill me but unable to. Come on, try to capture me if you dare. I will definitely hold on until the day I see Central Earth utterly destroyed with my own eyes." As he uttered the final words, an intense, almost tangible venomous resentment brimmed in his eyes. Fang Chen looked at him coldly and said in a deep voice, "Whether Central Earth will be destroyed, I do not know." Fang Chen slowly drew the angelic blade that radiated holy light, his face cloaked in a layer of icy killing intent. The Central Emperor snorted derisively and said coldly, "You want to kill me? Have you lost your mind? My heart is linked to the 9 sacred realm formations. If I die, the formations break and the fierce beasts emerge." Fang Chen's lips curled into a faint, mocking smirk. He said flatly, "Is that so? Then try crushing your own heart." The Central Emperor's vertical pupils abruptly contracted as a sense of foreboding surged within him. He demanded in a low voice, "What do you mean? Are you not afraid of the fierce beasts appearing?" Seeing Fang Chen still staring at him with that faint, knowing smirk, his heart pounded wildly. Steeling his heart, he slammed his palm ferociously towards his own chest. The heavenly poisoned sage beside him turned ashen and moved to activate the sundial, but Fang Chen raised a hand to stop him. The expressions of everyone present plummeted into horror. If this backfired, the 9-3 Calamity's realm fierce beasts would truly manifest. A dull, wet burst resounded as the Central Emperor crushed his own heart with his bare hands. An intangible, terrifying shockwave instantly swept across all directions, spreading to every corner of the southern celestial realm. The Imperial Court Sacred Realm formation closest to him was the first to be struck by this wave. The invisible protective barrier of the formation trembled violently, as if resonating at a shared frequency, and after 3 breaths, it shattered with a thunderous boom. Within the crumbling light of the formation, the exhausted fierce beasts and the great sage of the Phoenix dynasty, locked in mutual slaughter, were revealed. However, that was all. In the entire southern celestial realm, only the aura of a single 3 Calamities realm fierce beast manifested at this moment. In the distance, deathly silence reigned. The heartless Central Emperor slumped weakly to the ground, his face a mask of disbelief as he roared hoarsely, "Where is the giant Emperor's mount? Why hasn't it awakened?" With his hands behind his back, Fang Chen said calmly, "They won't wake up. I already sent them on their way while they were asleep." The Central Emperor's eyes bulged wide as he gasped raggedly, "No, impossible. How could you kill the fierce beasts of the 3 Calamities realm?" Fang Chen's tone remained calm and unhurried. "I can not only kill them, but also sell them. The corpses of 3 Calamities realm fierce beasts must be quite valuable, don't you think?" Thank your southern celestial realm for this generous gift. I will sell them at a fine price." The Central Emperor's eyes blazed with rage and splitting fury. His trump card against Central Earth had instead become a treasure delivered to Fang Chen. He frantically urged the giant emperor's formidable physique, rapidly regenerating his heart in a desperate attempt to reconstitute his combat power. He wanted to crush Fang Chen to death before he himself perished. The Nine-Nether Demon Lord let out a cold snort and decisively struck. A phantom of a heaven, devouring giant python suddenly materialized, coiling tightly around his colossal body. At the same time, the ancient Zen Buddha also acted. Behind him, the temple blazed with golden light, and the sound of Buddha's chanting resounded clearly. Streams of golden Sanskrit characters coalesced into the phantom of a giant Buddha, descending mightily upon the Central Emperor's head to suppress him. With a muffled thud, the already heavily wounded Central Emperor could not withstand the combined strike of two Calamity's realm experts and was instantly pinned to the ground, unable to move a single muscle. Yet his ferocious expression did not wane as he bellowed like thunder, "Fang Chen, you will die a wretched death." Accompanied by a sharp sound tearing through the air, Fang Chen's figure instantly appeared above his forehead. With a calm face devoid of joy or sorrow, he said slowly, "My days are indeed numbered. Fortunately, before I face my tribulation, I can successfully exterminate all of you giants." As his words fell, the angelic blade in his hand stabbed down mercilessly. The Central Emperor struggled violently, howling, "Fang Chen, I don't want to die by your hand, I don't." He couldn't accept dying like this. He couldn't accept not witnessing the destruction of Central Earth, not seeing Fang Chen receive his retribution. His answer was the terrifying holy light that suddenly erupted from the angelic blade, instantly melting his internal organs into blinding radiance. These rays of light burst out madly from his wounds, 7 orifices and pores. The 100 janked, all-central emperor transformed into a blazing sun of dazzling light. As the unwilling roar abruptly ceased, that mass of light exploded into countless shards of holy light, drifting down in all directions. This giant emperor, who had threatened Central Earth for a full 2,000 years, had finally fallen completely. His death also meant that the calamity of the giants that had hung over Central Earth for 10,000 years was now completely resolved. This was a historic moment for Central Earth, and a glorious moment for all living beings across the myriad realms of the heavens. For this was the only great victory in a campaign against the Dark World in 10,000 years. Just then, the projected map of the great Daqian Divine Kingdom that Fang Chen had conjured suddenly trembled, shattered once more into fragments, and flew back to its original position. The star representing the southern heaven realm, once utterly dark, now radiated an intense light. This meant that the southern heaven realm had been reclaimed. Before Fang Chen could feel surprised, the earth beneath his feet violently quaked. No, it was not the ground shaking, it was the southern heaven realm itself that was trembling. To be precise, the entire void was churning restlessly, like a boiling sea. The void, silent and dead for 10,000 years, now heaved violently. Fragments of the myriad realms and 100 worlds were tossed about in the tempestuous waves, trembling without cease. The upheaval prompted mighty experts from the 100 worlds to tear through world barriers and step into the void to investigate the source of the quaking. Wisps of ancient and vast auras were roused from their slumber, projecting world, shaking saintly phantoms that surveyed heaven and earth with uncertainty. Yet all this was only the beginning. From the depths of the void, an emotionless, ancient voice rolled forth mightily, sweeping through every world and every corner. That voice was ethereal and profound, imbued with supreme authority. In the 100th year of the Great Daqian calendar, on the 3rd day of the 5th month, the Central Land Expedition, Ion to the Southern Heaven Realm, inflicted a crushing defeat upon the giants, beheaded their chieftains at the royal court, annihilated all giant kings before the battle lines, and reclaimed the Dark World. The first victory in 10,000 years, setting an unprecedented precedent, inaugurating a new era for the imperial dynasty, merits shining upon 100 worlds, and virtue surpassing 10,000 generations. We hereby designate this triumph as the Great Southern Heaven Victory, and change the old calendar to the Central Land era. Furthermore, Fang Chen of the Central Land human race, who commanded the 3 armies and turned the tide 6 times, has immeasurable merit and unparalleled battle achievements. He is specially invested as champion marquis, with fiefdom over 3 realms, command of 3,000 divine might iron cavalry, and freedom of passage throughout the myriad heavens. Proclaimed to all heavens, made known throughout the 100 worlds. By imperial decree. Above the southern heaven realm, a resplendent giant silk scroll descended like a celestial curtain. Upon it, large characters danced, each imbued with profound rhythm, and they were exactly the words of investiture just recited. At the scroll's end, a vivid red seal was stamped. Engraved upon the seal were 8 mysterious great characters that could not be gazed upon directly with mortal eyes. As it fell, the giant scroll rapidly shrank, and when it reached Fang Chen, it transformed into a tiny streak of light that swiftly darted into his forehead. Fang Chen's body jolted violently. He could distinctly feel a strange and mysterious energy added inside him. A look of astonishment and doubt appeared on his face. Who exactly pronounced the investiture? How could they represent the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom? Hadn't the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom already fallen? And that seal on the decree, if his senses were not mistaken, was it not the very imprint within the pit of purple crystal ore? And this seal was actually the imperial jade seal of the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom that was passed down through the realm. In other words, the mountain where the seal rested within the purple crystal ore was once the place where the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom's imperial jade seal was kept. No wonder that even a rubbing of a few characters from it on a tattered cloth possessed the power to crush an entire world. That were the engravings of the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom's imperial jade seal. What secretly worried Fang Chen was whether that decree entering his body would cause any trouble. After a moment of contemplation, he attempted to activate that energy within him. As a result, a towering apricot yellow banner, 10 zhang in height, abruptly materialized behind him. Upon the banner, the 3 characters Champion Marquis floated in bold, flamboyant strokes. The moment the banner appeared, the nearby Central Land Sages, the Asura Emperor, and the Heavenly Outer Sages all simultaneously felt an overwhelming pressure. Suppressed by an invisible force, their bodies involuntarily bent from the waist, bowing in salute. Their mouths also opened uncontrollably, and they shouted in unison, "Salute the Champion Marquis." Except for the 9 Netherworld, Demon Sovereign, and the ancient Chan Buddha Lord, who could barely resist that mysterious force's control, all other sages uniformly opened their mouths and shouted together, "Salute the Champion Marquis." Not only that, the banner's aura swept across all directions, and wherever it passed, every living being, whether angels, humans, or demon race, was compelled to genuflect on one knee in Fang Chen's direction. "Salute the Champion Marquis. Salute the Champion Marquis." The vast southern heaven realm was engulfed by wave after wave of salute the Champion Marquis cries, shaking the firmament and startling heaven and earth. Fang Chen stared blankly at the utterly shocking scene and quickly withdrew that mysterious power. The banner behind him instantly vanished, and the supreme might suppressing everyone dissipated as well. Cold Moon Sage's eyes widened as if he had seen a ghost, and he blurted out, "What the hell is that thing?" She actually bowed to Fang Chen involuntarily, like a common mortal encountering high officials and nobles. If her cultivation were just a bit lower, she probably would have knelt on the spot. This kind of status hierarchy that exists only in the mortal world has actually appeared among martial cultivators. Heavenly Craftsman Sage and the first rank Pavilion Master of Fang Mountain, among others, were all filled with shock and stared at Fang Chen with disbelief. As for Fang Chen himself, he also stood rooted to the spot with a bewildered look. One must know that back in the Central Land world, he was the type who wouldn't salute sages or kneel to saints. But that temperament was originally confined to the Central Land. Now, ironically, being in the Outer Realms, it was sages who had to come and bow to him. Fang Chen opened his mouth, utterly at a loss, and asked, what exactly is going on? Heavenly Poison Sage, standing nearby, also had a face full of shock. Suppressing the turmoil in his heart, he explained, "You have been enfeoffed as a marquis by the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom. All subjects of Great Daqian must salute you upon meeting, unless their noble rank is higher than yours, or their cultivation far surpasses yours." He took a deep breath and continued, "Moreover, according to the decree, you will possess fiefs spanning an entire 3 realms, and you can command an iron cavalry army composed of 3,000 sages. In addition, by virtue of this Champion Marquis identity, you will henceforth be unaffected by world barriers. From now on, even after you break through to the Sage Realm, you can freely enter and exit every world, no longer obstructed by the barrier's rules." Having said this, Heavenly Poison Sage could no longer contain the upheaval in his chest and exclaimed repeatedly, "Truly, I never expected that in my lifetime I would witness the scene of the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom conferring a marquisate. This is simply witnessing a living myth. It is said that in the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom's heyday, those who could be granted a marquisate were extremely few. Now, in an era when the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom has already fallen, we can still see a grand marquisate conferment ceremony. Truly, living long enough, one can witness anything. Upon hearing this, Fang Chen was utterly stunned, his heart roiling like the sea, fiefs across 3 worlds. An iron cavalry of 3,000 sage realm cultivators. However, he quickly forced himself to calm down, a sense of helplessness rising in his heart. The great Daqian Divine Kingdom had long since perished. Where could they allocate fiefs for him? And where could they conjure up an iron cavalry army of 3,000 sages? The only tangible use of this title was probably the privilege of ignoring world barrier rules and freely traveling through the Myriad Heavens. Of course, if he later encountered some blind, died sage, he could directly brandish the champion Marquis banner and make the other party obediently bow and salute. After thoroughly reasoning this out, Fang Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. From the current situation, the title of champion Marquis far outweighed its actual significance. Unless one day the great Daqian Divine Kingdom could be restored. But what he could never have expected was that this decree proclaimed to the world was stirring up a tremendous uproar throughout the Myriad Heavens and 100 worlds. Meanwhile, inside the armory, Jian Wuchu stood tall and straight, solemnly positioned within an ancient hall, permeated with sword kai. The floor, walls, and dome of this hall were all forged from divine weapons rarely seen in the world, constantly emitting boundless, piercing sword kai. On both sides of the hall sat 7 humans in silence. These 7 varied in age, and not a trace of cultivator aura could be detected on them. At a glance, they appeared as ordinary as common mortals. Among them were a doddering old man nearing the end of his life, a beautiful and charming woman in yellow robes, and even an adorable 3-kite all-child. Just then, the 3-kai child lifted a teacup, took a shallow sip, and leisurely asked, Jian Wuchu, for this secret investigation you were dispatched on, have you found out who is secretly purchasing armaments in large quantities? If someone looked closely, they would discover that what the teacup in his hand held was not tea at all, but sword kai so dense it had condensed into tangible, piercing form. Jian Wuchu was already a powerhouse at the 8 Meridians realm, his strength rivaling that of the 8 Hells Asura Emperor or the 8 Suns Giant Emperor. Upon hearing this, he bowed slightly, cupped his hands in salute, and respectfully reporting to Great Sage Longaming, the matter has been thoroughly investigated. The one that has been frantically gathering divine weapons across the Myriad realms lately is none other than Southern Daqian. The 3-foot child's eyebrows suddenly shot up, raising eyes that should have been full of childish innocence, but were now steeped in the vicissitudes of time and profound depth. He muttered under his breath, Southern Daqian. The yellow-robed beauty rested her chin on her hand, her radiant eyes glimmering slightly as she said softly, in this era of peace, for them to be collecting divine weapons from LL over the world on such a massive scale. Just what are they planning? It's truly hard to guess. The octogenarian elder gently stroked the cyan longsword lying across his knees, a chill seeping from his aged eyes. Before the troops move, provisions go first, Southern Daqian. After all, is unwilling to remain idle. They want to unify the 4 realms and 1 capital, and rebuild the Great Daqian. The expressions of the other 7 were extremely calm. Evidently, this intelligence was not unexpected to them. The Great Daqian Divine Kingdom had long splintered into 1,000 pieces. Any world with strength and ambition would want to unify all under heaven and grasp the supreme authority of the Divine Kingdom. And among them, the one with the greatest ambition was undoubtedly Southern Daqian. The 3-foot child spoke in a manner beyond his years. Southern Daqian, Southern Daqian. A bunch of mere distant relatives of the Imperial clan, yet they dare to claim lineage as the true Great Daqian. Normally, no one bothers with them. But if they really dare to leap forth under the banner of restoring the Great Daqian, that would be courting their own destruction. Just as the words were about to settle, the imperial edict that proclaimed to all heavens finally radiated across the sky above the armory with a surge of majestic divine might. The grand voice landed precisely in the ears of everyone present. The faces of the 7 who had been sitting in silence abruptly changed. They rose in shock, their brows replaced by utmost astonishment. The octogenarian elder suddenly gazed into the void sky, his voice trembling. Am I hearing this right? The Great Daqian Divine Kingdom, which perished 10,000 years ago, is actually conferring a title of Marquis. The 3-foot child's expression also became extremely solemn as he said heavily, this imperial edict also contains the oppressive might of the imperial jade seal that represents the state. That jade seal can only be invoked by the Great Daqian imperial clan in all the world. Could it be that a descendant of the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom has truly survived to this day? With these words, the expressions of the group gradually became uneasy. The octogenarian elder, his face full of suspicion and surprise, said, if this descendant of the Great Daqian Divine Kingdom is currently presiding over Southern Daqian, then when time comes and he raises his arm in a call, the myriad realms will surely rise in response. The world will immediately descend into chaos. The 3-foot child, however, slowly shook his head. The great Daqian Divine Kingdom, how could it still have descendants? The last descendant was the crown prince of Great Daqian, but he already died for his country many years ago. At this moment, the yellow-robed beauty, who had remained silent all along, slightly narrowed her lovely eyes and suddenly said, "Could it be that you have forgotten? Great Daqian has a princess who is still alive." On the faces of the 3-foot child, the octogenarian elder, and the other 4 great sages, a deep solemnity involuntarily surfaced, along with an indescribable profound wariness. The 3-foot child hurriedly put down the teacup in his hand and quickly said, "That person is an exception. She does not fall within this category." In summary, now that Southern Daqian is on the brink of raising troops, and concurrently a suspected descendant of the great Daqian imperial family has appeared, we absolutely must be more vigilant. We 7 swords should also come out of seclusion and go together to Southern Daqian to investigate the truth. The other 5 nodded slightly in agreement, except for that yellow-robed beauty, whose beautiful eyes flickered. She said slowly, "You go ahead. I want to personally go to the Southern Heaven realm. I'm very curious to know exactly what kind of 3-headed, 6-armed figure that Fang Chen, who commands the 3 armies and was conferred the title of Champion Marquis, is. Presumably, he must at least be a powerhouse at the 3 disasters realm, right?" Creak. Just as she finished speaking, a crisp sound of knuckles cracking was heard. Giant Wuchu before them had suddenly clenched his fists tightly. Threads of soaring battle intent, as if tangible, shot out from his sword-shaped pupils. The yellow-robed beauty's face couldn't help but show a look of surprise as she asked, "Wuchu, you know this person?" Giant Wuchu replied in a deep voice, "The first place in the Primal Wilds hunt. Fang Chen from the Central Plains, how could I not know?" Hearing this, everyone's faces showed confusion, and they couldn't help but voice their doubts. It's actually him, but doesn't he only have the cultivation of the divine transformation realm? The 3 armies he led restored the Dark World. This reward, could it be a mistake? Giant Wuchu's eyes revealed a sharp gleam. He enunciated word by word, "I also want to personally go to the Central Plains to meet him." The yellow-robed beauty looked at him deeply, already understanding his thoughts, and spoke, "What's the rush? What if he later becomes a member of our armory?" As she spoke, a hint of anticipation quietly flickered in her exquisitely beautiful eyes. Meanwhile, above the heavenly court, a young man clad in an awe-inspiring dragon robe stood proudly with his hands behind his back on the clouds, quietly overlooking the vast land below at the cultivators who had just newly joined the royal court. Each of them possessed abundant providence, being extraordinary individuals favored by fortune in their respective worlds. Suddenly, the gaze of the heavenly court king fixed upon a pink-skirted young maiden. He muttered to himself with interest, "Oh, a mere outsider actually cultivated our heavenly court's supreme secret art, the Emperor's Kai-gazing technique. Moreover, she is exceptionally compatible with it, her cultivation almost approaching mine. Interesting." With a slight thought, his figure instantly appeared beside the pink-skirted maiden. He asked faintly, what is your name?" Yu Mingju was curiously surveying her surroundings when she suddenly noticed that a person had appeared out of thin air beside her. Alarm bells rang loudly in her heart, and she warily retorted, "Who are you?" However, the next instant, all the heavenly court powerhouses around, from divine transformation cultivators below to sages above, uniformly knelt down in prostration towards that young man, shouting in unison, "We pay respects to our king." Yu Mingju gasped sharply in her heart. This person was actually the legendary, supreme heavenly court king. Her heart trembled, and she quickly knelt down to salute, respectfully saying, "Yu Mingju of the Central Plains pays respects to the heavenly court king." The heavenly court king examined her from head to toe with great interest and said slowly, "To be able to permanently freeze one's appearance at the youthful age of 18, this is something countless female saints and sages dream of. It seems you were born blessed by the spiritual essence of this world. No wonder you could successfully cultivate our clan's emperor's Kai-gazing technique." He paused, his tone casual yet imbued with supreme might, as he declared, "This king hereby confers upon you the title of the 18th consort. From now on, you will stay by my side to cultivate." As soon as these words fell, the surrounding female cultivators were all deeply shaken, gazes shot over, filled with irrepressible jealousy. To become a consort of the heavenly court king, one's minimum future achievement would certainly be a one disaster sage. This girl has literally ascended to the heavens in a single step. Yu Mingju was even more alarmed upon hearing this and hastily declined, replying to the heavenly court king, This junior already has a husband." The heavenly court king's face, however, showed no concern at all. he merely waved his hand dismissively, a mere common mortal, just forget about him. Just at this moment, the imperial edict of the great Daqian Divine Kingdom also boomed forth to the skies above the heavenly court. Every word and sentence, like a clap of thunder, shook all the living beings present. The heavenly court king's expression drastically changed, and he blurted out, "The great Daqian Divine Kingdom is conferring a marquis title." "How is this possible?" "That divine kingdom has been destroyed for a full 10,000 years. Moreover, the central plains actually restored the dark world. This is a feat even our heavenly court failed to accomplish, yet the central plains has done it." Brilliant light burst from his eyes as he asked heavily that Fang Chen, who was enfiefed as a marquis in this single battle, who exactly is he? In fact, he had already sensed something earlier when the central plains was on its expedition to the southern heaven realm. It was just that back then, he never believed the central plains could win. But the current result is not only a great victory for the central plains, but also, by virtue of such illustrious military exploits, the supreme rewards of the great Daqian Divine Kingdom have been activated. And the one named Fang Chen was even exceptionally granted the title of Champion Marquis. His brows furrowed tightly, chewing over each word, Champion Marquis, that is the most supreme title among all honors of the great Daqian. Even I failed to receive such an honor in my time. Does he, Fang Chen, deserve it? At these words, Yu Mingju's bright eyes suddenly lit up, as if tempered by starlight, blazing with brilliance. It was Fang Chen, the man she yearned for day and night, actually enfiefed as a marquis. Yet she suppressed the surging wild joy in her heart, not daring to show a trace on her face, only appearing more respectful as she said, reporting to the heavenly court king, "My husband is a dragon among men, an upright and indomitable man of great standing. I am utterly devoted to him, and will never marry another." The heavenly court king's gaze suddenly narrowed, and a thread of coldness as sharp as a blade's edge flowed out. He never permitted any refusal in this world. But at that moment, he suddenly sensed the innate fortune on Yu Mingju, a presence that clearly belonged to one who was blessed by heaven and earth, uniquely favored. He couldn't help but feel some hesitation. For the past 10,000 years, he had constantly gathered those with great fortune from all under heaven, attempting to use this force to break through the bottleneck that had bound him, but without exception, all had failed. Each time seemed only a step away, but in reality, because the fortune was ultimately insufficient, it fell short by a single basket. And this young woman before him was simply like a darling cherished in the palm of heaven and earth, possessing uniquely advantageous conditions. Perhaps she could become the key to his breakthrough. Thinking up to this, the heavenly court king slowly suppressed the coldness in his eyes, even his tone softened. "Very well, this king shall take you as a disciple. I will transmit to you the supreme art of fortune, bestow upon you the strongest fortune, and help you cultivate the legendary divine eyes of destiny. Once these eyes are cultivated, you will be able to defy heaven and change fate, manipulate the grand trends of heaven and earth, and wield the destinies of all beings, a supreme fortune that rivals the ancient god of destiny. As for whether you can ultimately succeed, it all depends on your own fortune." Hearing the words, "take you as a disciple," the taut strings of Yu Mingju's heart finally relaxed, and she secretly let out a sigh of relief. But when she heard the 4 words, "divine eyes of destiny," again, her heart suddenly pounded wildly with excitement in her chest. Why had she endured the pain of parting alone to travel far to the heavenly court? The reason was none other. In the dim light of the ancient Buddha mirror, she had glimpsed a few shards of the future. One of those scenes was precisely about these divine eyes of destiny. She knew in her heart that this must be the key to reverse Fang Chen's fate and defy the heavens. Without any more hesitation, Yu Mingju kowtowed deeply, her voice clear and resolute. Yu Mingju pays respects to Master. At this very moment, above the majestic and supreme imperial palace where laws intertwined, young Master Zhang sat high upon the cold throne, overlooking the ministers below. Around his body, phantom lights of fragmented laws occasionally flickered. His entire aura was profound and unfathomable. He had already proven the realm of a sage. Just then, the imperial edict of the great Daqian divine nation arrived with fanfare, and the corner of young Master Zhang's lips curled into a meaningful arc as he chuckled softly. "Champion Marquis, how interesting." Deep within his eyes, a fervent heat of meeting his match suddenly ignited. "You are worthy of this one drawing the sword for battle." Again, in the void near the Sin Realm, the scene was utterly different. A sheet of ghastly pale lightning suddenly radiated for 10,000 miles, illuminating the void across all heavens as bright as day. A human sage, covered in karmic obstacles and wrapped in a black robe, was struggling in a sorry state to break free from that lightning. But before he could flee far, a white long spear that seemed capable of destroying the world pierced through the boundless void without warning, fiercely penetrating his chest and ailing him alive to a dead, silent meteorite. The young emperor, with hands behind his back, strode through the void, emerging right after. His entire body steamed with violent thunderous airstreams, as if the thunder god had descended with awe-inspiring might. He merely cast a cold glance at the corpse of the inferior sage, already destroyed in both body and spirit, and said indifferently, "The 10th." As the words fell, he grabbed the god, killing Longspear, and casually pulled it back. The blood-stained spear, following the motion, swept up the last of the inferior sage's essence. Blood, which seeped into the spear's body, strand by strand. The artifact spirit of the god, killing Longspear, having absorbed the essence blood, still showed some disdain. A sage force, fed by fortune, is ultimately lacking. Not enough, still not enough. The young emperor's expression remained unchanged, his tone calm. "This is merely the beginning. No matter how many you wish to slaughter, this young emperor will surely grant your wish." The artifact spirit of the god, killing Longspear, however, sighed, "It's not easy. The rules of the world barriers suppress you. You cannot freely enter and exit the various large and small worlds, and can only try your luck in the void. To slaughter enough experts, you'd have to wait until the year of the monkey and the month of the horse." Hearing this, the young emperor snorted heavily. "I cannot wait that long." Rumble. At that very moment, the heavenly sound of the imperial edict penetrated the void and drifted over. The young emperor's sword, like eyebrows, twitched sharply, and his face instantly surged with soaring battle intent. "As expected of you, truly destroying the southern heaven realm, you have never disappointed me." The artifact spirit of the god, killing Longspear, also laughed in a deep voice. "Heh heh, the great Daqian Divine Nation hasn't fallen yet. It seems the world is about to descend into chaos. Young emperor, your era is coming. Since ancient times, heroes emerge from troubled times. I have high hopes for you." The young emperor, however, showed utter disdain. "I don't care to be some hero. As long as I can slaughter to my heart's content, that's enough. Once the chaos begins, enough experts will descend into the void. By then, will he still fear not having enough for a wild killing spree?" However, the young emperor's gaze shifted to the sage corpse, and a trace of imperceptible caution flickered in his eyes. If he hadn't moved quickly just now, the opponent almost would have escaped. He looked down upon all directions, and a thought suddenly arose. "First I'll go find an unparalleled mount that can gallop across the world, and then have a good battle with the heroes under heaven." Meanwhile, in the southern heaven realm, the rewards of the great Daqian Divine Nation were issued like flowing water, without pause. Following Fang Chen's enfeoffment as champion marquis, among the many sages who participated in this war, all those with meritorious deeds received rewards. Among them, the 9 Nether Demon Venerable and the ancient Zen Buddha Venerable were each granted the title of Count, bestowed with official positions in the great Daqian Divine Ion, because Dongfeng Kanyu cooperated with Fang Chen to achieve the first kill of an enemy sage. She was also conferred as the Redbud Count. However, the most intriguing was Hongxiu. Because of her meritorious command of the Asura Emperor, she also received a reward. But the title of the reward caused everyone, including Fang Chen, to stare at her in stunned disbelief. It was first rank Imperial Mandate Madam. This Imperial Mandate honor is an appointment that only the wife of a noble of the great Daqian Divine Nation could receive. This Asura Emperor, called Qingjiu, she has a man. And what's more, her man is actually a titled noble within the great Daqian Divine Nation. Hongxiu herself was stunned on the spot, completely dumbfounded. What the hell? First rank Imperial Mandate Madam, she? Whose madam is she? An absurd thought suddenly crashed into her mind. Could it be that the great Daqian Divine Nation has recognized her as the wife of champion Marquis Fang Chen? Could it be that because they had a relationship through that green pearl artifact, she is counted as his woman? This is far too ridiculous. This direct official certification from the great Daqian Divine Nation nearly drove her mad for a moment. The rest of the people also received rewards to varying extents, only they were similar to Fang Chen's titles, far greater in name than in substance, with no tangible material award. Moreover, the edicts granting them rewards only echoed on the Southern Heaven Realm battlefield, unlike Fang Chen's, which was proclaimed to all heavens and spread might across the myriad realms. After the rewards were completely finished, Fang Chen turned around and looked towards the area behind him, where the sacred realm formation had been lifted. The great sage of Fangchao and that fierce beast both lay sprawled on the ground, covered in wounds and utterly exhausted, looking as though they didn't even have a shred of strength. left to fight again. Fang Chen immediately took out that dog chain and handed it to the 9 nether demon venerable. May I trouble the demon venerable to help tie up that beast? He said in a deep voice, reminding, no matter how weakened it is still in existence of the 3 calamities realm. I absolutely dare not approach lightly. The 9 nether demon venerable took the chain, his gaze jumping back and forth between the great sage of Fengchao and the fierce beast, and asked, which one do you want to tie up? As soon as the words fell, the sages of the central plains present burst out laughing, their eyes swept with disdain towards the great sage of Fengchao. This old hag started off with such arrogance, but in the end, at the very start, she was trapped in the sacred realm formation, locked in a love-hate struggle with a fierce beast. The 10 otherworldly sages she brought were all killed by her inside, and she herself ended up severely wounded in a pitiful state. Great sage Fengchao felt utterly humiliated. In this great battle, watched with rapt attention by all heavens and myriad worlds, she was nothing but a laughingstock who had wandered onto the wrong stage. She dared not imagine how the myriad heavens and worlds would gossip about her after this day, or what looks her comrades from the source of all evil would give her. You wait, great sage Fengchao, ashamed beyond measure, spat out this harsh threat before forcibly activating a jade talisman capable of unleashing a 3 calamities realm strike. The jade talisman burst forth with blinding light, blasting open a hole in the void. She scrambled in on all fours, and in the blink of an eye, was swept away by chaotic void currents, vanishing from sight, leaving only that silver moon great sovereign standing alone in silent chagrin. He had survived only thanks to great sage Fengchao's protection, yet he had contributed nothing throughout the entire battle, not a shred of merit. When rewards were distributed back in the Middle Land, he wouldn't receive even a sliver of merit. In contrast, those who followed Fang Chen had all achieved great merit. His hope of becoming a sage was now likely utterly dashed. Fang Chen paid him no mind, only urgently urging, Senior 9 Nether, please exercise utmost caution. 9 Nether Demon Venerable nodded, gripping the dog chain, and approached the ferocious beast with careful, deliberate steps. To guard against mishaps, ancient Zen Buddha Venerable also followed closely, providing support from the flank. Yet the 2 of them met little difficulty, and successfully slipped the dog chain onto it. The beast was so gravely wounded that it only gave token low growls as the chain was fastened. Only when the dog chain was fully tightened did the beast seem to remember to struggle. It thrashed its ferocious dragon head in fury, but the chain emanated a mysterious binding force that rendered all its resistance futile. Fang Chen swooped over, his eyes brimming with unconcealed excitement. This dog chain had once been used in the Sumeru Divine Prison to restrain a young Killin. That prison was originally designed for Saint Realm experts, so using it now to confine this 3 calamities realm beast should pose no problem. Suppressing his excitement, he tentatively gripped the dog chain and commanded in a deep voice, "Shut up." The beast's roars cut off abruptly, as if an invisible hand had seized its throat. Its body completely out of its control, it could make no sound, only huffing 2 streams of white, furious air from its colossal nostrils. Fang Chen's eyes lit up, and he commanded again, "Hit yourself in the face." The beast's blood, red giant eyes widened roundly, glaring as if to spew tangible flames of rage, wishing nothing more than to swallow Fang Chen alive. Yet its body moved entirely against its will, stiffly raising a forepaw and slapping itself across the face with a resounding smack. Fang Chen's eyes blazed with ecstasy. With this dog chain in hand, the beast would never escape his grasp. In other words, from this moment on, he possessed a 3 calamities realm mount. The watching sages were already swallowing their saliva, mouths dry with envy. This was a 3 calamities realm beast. With it, one could truly swagger through the myriad heavens and worlds. Should any fool cross your path, a single bite from this mount would be crisp and crunchy. Dongfang Canyu watched with burning eyes, unable to resist rubbing her hands and saying, "Fang Chen, the waters of this beast run too deep for you. You can't handle it. Let your big sister take over." Fang Chen rolled his eyes at her and said, "Get lost." He then dismissed the others. "Seniors, the battle in the heavenly realm ends here, but there are still loose ends that urge it. TL, why need your attention? For instance, the remnant souls of those inferior sages, the Giant Emperor and the Asura Emperor. I must trouble you all to seek them out and eradicate every last one, so that no future calamity may arise." Hearing this, everyone's hearts clenched. The previous chaotic battle had been too brutal. After smiting the enemies, they indeed hadn't had time to check whether their souls had been utterly annihilated. Even if just a single wisp of remnant soul escaped, it would surely become a monumental disaster in the future. The group immediately rekindled their fighting spirit. dispersing to search in all directions across the southern heaven realm. Fang Chen, smiling broadly, drew a pouch from his bosom and carefully put the ancient ferocious beast inside. He secretly calculated in his mind, once this brute recovered some strength, he would release it to test its true power. As for now, Fang Chen had no time to idle. He immediately took out the heart of Myriad Earth, activated its spatial power, and instantly fled from that spot. Now that the sealing arrays of the various saint realms had all been breached, the corpses of the ferocious beasts within the 8 royal courts had to be taken away as soon as possible. Sybil, lest delays bring unforeseen changes. In the blink of an eye, Fang Chen's figure abruptly materialized before the ruined Black Sun royal court, but as his gaze swept over the scene, he froze on the spot. He saw only emptiness amid the shattered walls and rubble. The corpse of the ferocious beast he had slain with the Tao slave's tainted blood was nowhere to be seen. Fang Chen furrowed his brows, musing to himself, could it be that the Middle Land army passed by and conveniently carried it off? But as he bent down to inspect carefully, his pupils contracted sharply. The Saint Realm's formation here had been forcibly breached. This great array had not opened naturally. After his departure, outsiders had broken the seals with brute force and brazenly stolen the beast's corpse. If this was the case here, what about the other 7 royal courts? Fang Chen's heart tightened with urgency, and he hastily activated the heart of Myriad Earth to sense the locations of the other Saint Realms. The result, without exception, all the Saint Realms arrays had been forcibly broken open, and the beast corpses within had been completely cleaned out. Fang Chen was so enraged he laughed, his cold laughter growing more and more intense. He he, he 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 he. The front lines are in a desperate fight, while the rear lines feast heartily. Is that it? At the thought that while he had been fighting desperately against powerful foes at the front, someone had slipped to the rear and stolen away the spoils he had earned with his lips, Fang Chen's eyes nearly spat fire. He gnashed his teeth and said, "Who is this dog, shit bastard who dares take advantage of me and left me not a single scrap of benefit?" If they had taken just one carcass, it might be forgivable, but they had made off with all 8 ferocious beast corpses, leaving not a single one behind. It had always been his prerogative to take advantage of others. Now that he had been taken advantage of to such an extent, this was the first time ever. Fury surging within him, Fang Chen squeezed out through clenched teeth. "You like taking advantage of me, huh? Fine, I'll grant your wish." He immediately produced a small bottle of Tao slave's tainted blood, gripped the heart of Myriad Earth, then closed his eyes to sense carefully. All 8 ferocious beasts had been killed by the Tao slave's tainted blood, and their corpses still bore faint traces of its toxic aura. With this unique aura signature, he could absolutely track down that corpse, stealing thief. Meanwhile, in the purple, green immortal mountain of the southern heaven realm, a big black dog was digging furiously with its rear stuck up in the herbal garden, gouging out one massive pit after another. It spat out several mouthfuls of mud, cursing loudly, "Damn it all, which bastard is so wicked as to dig up all the spirit herbs, leaving not even a single root? Is there a more extinction, level way of harvesting?" Having spat out the mud, the big black dog huffed and continued cursing ceaselessly. It had originally thought it had stumbled upon a millennia-old herbal garden, surely a heaven-sent treasure trove. Little did it expect that apart from a mouthful of mud, it wouldn't dig up so much as half a spirit herb. After cursing for a while, the big black dog lowered its head and stomped the mountain beneath its paws, muttering to itself, "This mountain supplies the entire world with spiritual energy. It must be this world's world core. It's because of it that this world has remained stable until now. In the future, when the dark tide erupts, the world will need a world core to stand firm if it hopes to survive. If I could dig it out, it would fetch a fine price." The big black dog's eyes glowed, and drool dripped from the corner of its mouth. But at that moment, as if sensing something, it suddenly shivered, raised its head to look at the heavens, and then chuckled sheepishly. "Ahem, just kidding, don't be tense." Clearly, its greedy thoughts had angered the Saint Realm's will of the Southern Heaven Realm. Had it not recognized the dog's extraordinary origins and feared provoking it, it likely would have already blasted this world into dust and ashes. The big black dog put on a smiling face, but inwardly grumbled nonstop. "A tiny broken world, with just this half-world core, you think you can survive the dark tide? Better to let me dig it up, miser." Just as it was silently grumbling, the vertical golden dog eye on its forehead suddenly began flashing urgently, as if sensing immense danger. The big black dog reacted with lightning speed, kicking off with its hind legs and instantly teleporting away. In the very instant it barely evaded, the void behind where it had been silently exploded, bursting into a patch of pitch-black liquid. None other than the Dao slave's tainted blood. Though the tainted blood failed to hit it, the splashes scattered across the earth, instantly corroding everything around into putrid, rotting decay. The big black dog's tongue tied in terror, and it exclaimed in alarm, "Dao slave tainted blood. If I get sprayed by this stuff dead on, this dog's life is done for." Shame turning to fury, it barked madly at the sky. "Witch turtle. Brained brat has no martial honor, sneaking an attack on your dog grandpa. Roll out here, you dog grandpa." A sharp shriek rent the air as a black-robed figure abruptly materialized, its entire body wreathed in dense toxic miasma. It was precisely Fang Chen's poison body. He coldly stared down the big black dog and snorted. "I wondered what mangy cur dared to steal my fierce beast corpses. Turns out it really is a mangy dog." The big black dog froze, then understood. The rightful owner had come knocking. With a guilty conscience, its 3 dog eyes swiveled, but its mouth quibbled. "Junior, is your name carved on the corpses, claiming they're yours? I say the entire southern heaven realm is mine. Don't pick a quarrel, or this dog grandpa's mouth won't recognize anyone." Fang Chen snorted coldly and slapped the pouch at his waist. The sound of dragging chains rang out as the heaven, burying sacred beast, its neck collared by a jet-black chain, was forcefully released. After a brief period of recuperation, it had recovered much of its strength. Though not yet back at its peak, it already possessed considerable ferocious battle power. No matter how sinister the big black dog's origins, it was now enough to contend with. The moment the big black dog saw the heaven, burying sacred beast, its 3 dog eyes bulged wide. "A living fierce beast, this. How the hell did you do that?" Fang Chen leaped, landing steadily on the heaven, burying sacred beast's broad back, pointed at the big black dog, and pronounced with killing intent, "Slaughter this dead dog." However, the heaven, burying sacred beast, didn't budge. Instead it twisted its ferocious head to glare at Fang Chen, snorting 2 disdainful puffs of air from its nostrils. Fang Chen immediately realized this dog chain could only command its body to perform simple physical actions, but couldn't make it wholeheartedly commit to battle. Otherwise, back then when the little Killin was rescued by the merciful heart old dog, it would never have escaped. But what difficulty was that? Fang Chen's eyes swiveled. He pointed at the big black dog and shouted to the heaven, "Burying sacred beast, this dead dog cruelly slaughtered 8 of your comrades. Don't you want revenge?" The heaven, burying sacred beast's indifferent gaze, abruptly turned sharp and piercing, shooting fiercely toward the big black dog. Its nostrils flared as it sniffed, quickly locking onto the orange bell hanging from the big black dog's neck, from which a blood-soaked resentment faintly emanated. The heaven, burying sacred beast, immediately threw back its head and let out a furious roar. Without needing Fang Chen's command, a soul-shaking dragon's roar erupted from its ferocious dragon maw. Within the roar was a supreme divine might akin to the imperial heirloom seal, descending like heavenly pressure to crush all directions. The big black dog instantly stiffened rigid, its body seemingly nailed in place, unable to move. It cursed inwardly. "Damn it, it's been 10,000 years. How do these mounts still retain the divine kingdom's pressure? What really makes this dog grandpa curse is that these fierce beasts were clearly killed by Fang Chen, yet this bastard with a human face and a dog's heart, without blushing or batting an eye, frames and slanders me. Outrageous." The large golden dog eye on its forehead suddenly erupted with dazzling golden radiance, enveloping its entire body. The intimidating sense of divine might was instantly weakened considerably. The big black dog hastily raised its right leg, pointing fiercely at Fang Chen, and cried out, "Heaven, burying sacred beast, use that walnut-sized brain of yours and think. What cultivation level do I have? How could I possibly kill 8 of your companions at their peak? It was all done by that brat on your back." The heaven, burying sacred beast, ceased its dragon roar. Its ferocious dragon head slowly turned back to scrutinize Fang Chen again, boundless hostility churning in its eyes. Fang Chen spread his hands with an innocent look. "What cultivation do I have? Besides, your companions' corpses are on this dead dog. Caught with the loot, no denial allowed." The heaven, burying sacred beast, rolled its eye and glared back at the big black dog. All its scales instantly flared open with a harsh, clattering rasp. Streams of black mist, laden with brutality, fury, and resentment, billowed out from beneath the scales. Just as the black mist was about to invade Fang Chen, the dog chain on his neck suddenly erupted with a layer of dark light, dispersing them all. Fang Chen snatched the dog chain tightly, not daring to let go for dear life. The big black dog was so terrified by the heaven, burying sacred beast's ferocious appearance that its legs went weak, and it hastily explained, "I swear on my canine honor it really wasn't me." Fang Chen pressed 2 fingers together, pointing straight at the heavens, and swore aloud, "I, Wang Qingxiu, swear to the heavens that it was this dead dog who did it. If there is a single lie, may I, Wang Qingxiu, be condemned by heaven and destroyed, body dead and Tao extinguished, reincarnated as a beast in my next life, and never be human or all eternity." His gaze shifted, staring down the big black dog, and harshly demanded, "Dead dog, do you dare swear such a venomous oath?" The big black dog's 3 eyes bulged round in shock, and it screamed inwardly, seriously, has shamelessness become this competitive now? How can he have the face to swear such a venomous oath? But the heaven, burying sacred beast, gave it no chance to explain. Wrapped in terrifying black mist, it crazily charged straight at the big black dog. The big black dog gritted its teeth in frustration and burst out cursing, "Damn it, you think this dog grandpa is afraid of you?" From the purple bell on its neck, it abruptly pulled out a golden, glittering, large iron rod. Then it reared up on its hind legs, 2 dog paws hugging the iron rod tightly, and smashed it down ferociously. With an earth-shattering crack, the golden light and the sky, filling black mist, collided head on. That iron rod, some unknown divine artifact, when swung down actually stirred some indiscernible law of heaven and earth. Countless phantom chains descended from the firmament with a heavy, clanking din. The heaven, burying sacred beast, with its trial of 3 calamities body, lashed out a claw, viciously scraping against the iron rod, forcibly shredding dense fragments of law chains. The terrifying shockwaves swept out, twisting space for thousands of miles into a contorted mass, exposing vast expanses of pitch-black void. Fang Chen sensed the aura the big black dog had just released, and his heart lurched. This black dog is actually at the trial of 2 calamities. Fortunately, he had come fully prepared this time. Otherwise, it would have been delivering himself up on a platter. After blocking the heaven, burying sacred beast strike, the big black dog's eyes turned slyly. The golden dog eye on its forehead suddenly shot out a blazing golden beam. At such close range, it was utterly impossible to guard against. The heaven, burying sacred beast, was no pushover either. Reacting with extreme speed, it opened its massive maw and roared a sound wave imbued with divine might. The incoming golden beam was instantly shattered, scattering like meteors in all directions. Immediately after, the black mist swirling around it surged like a raging sea, pouncing violently toward the big black dog. The big black dog hastily retreated, but the heaven, burying sacred beast, pursued relentlessly. The 2 clashed fiercely across the firmament, shattering and collapsing heaven and earth wherever they passed. Fang Chen, protected by the heaven, burying sacred beast's black mist and unaffected by the battle, watched the entire world, shaking fight up close. The heaven destroying might left him breathless with awe. At the same time, he gained some new insights into the application of heaven, earth laws, and innate Taoist arts. As the stalemate dragged on, Fang Chen was not in a hurry. Because time was on his side, as soon as 9 Nether Demon Venerable and Ancient Zen Buddha Venerable sensed the battle fluctuations here, it would be doomsday for the big black dog. The big black dog clearly understood this as well, growing increasingly anxious. It gritted its teeth, tore a black bell from its neck, and tossed it to Fang Chen, looking unwilling to continue the entanglement. "Fine, fine, I'll return the corpses to you." A covert glint flashed in Fang Chen's eyes. This dead dog was as cunning as a fox. How could it easily give up the meat in its mouth? Even a toe could guess that this black bell was surely a trap. But he didn't refuse. He simply went along with the scheme and grabbed it. After all, he was currently using his poison body. Whatever danger there was, the poison body would bear it first, and his soul could return to his original body unharmed. Fang Chen suddenly yanked the chain back and barked, "Stop." He couldn't command the heaven, burying sacred beast, to actively fight, but forcibly stopping it from continuing the fight was feasible. The heaven, burying sacred beast's body, immediately stiffened uncontrollably. The big black dog seized the chance to retreat and chuckled. "All 8 corpses are inside. See for yourself." "Oh, the activation incantation is Southern Kind's first fierce dog." Fang Chen's face instantly darkened. "What number 1 fierce dog? More like number 1 underhanded dog." He nodded, pretended to carefully inspect the storage device, then tossed it a bit farther away, keeping some distance, and shouted in a deep voice, "Nankian's number 1 fierce dog." With a crisp click, the black bell indeed opened. The expected sneak attack didn't occur. Just as Fang Chen was thinking he had misjudged the black dog with a petty heart, a strange stench entered his nostrils. Before he could react, his vision suddenly went black. Not good, it's poison gas. This is a poison gas that even a poisoned body can't resist. Without hesitation, he instantly returned his soul to his main body in the pouch at his waist. The poisoned body, losing control, collapsed limply. The heaven-burying celestial beast also sensed the danger, hurriedly covered its nose with its two claws, and let out low rumbles of anger. It wanted to resist, but the poisoned body had tightly gripped the chain, leaving it utterly unable to move. Seeing its cunning plans succeed, the big black dog arrogantly barked at the sky. Wahahaha, you little brat, you think you can fight with Lord Dog. You thought staying far away would prevent you from falling for it. Satisfied, it retrieved the black bell, stretched out a paw, and pulled out a lump of yellowish feces. The big black dog brought it to its dog nose, deeply sniffed it with extreme enjoyment. Oh, the poop of a Saint Realm great demon is truly different, so fragrant. It turned out what was inside wasn't poison gas at all, but the big black dog's carefully hoarded grand heavenly feces. To it, this was a delicacy beyond compare, but to other creatures, a single whiff was no different from inhaling deadly poison. It sniffed and smelled and sniffed again, contentedly stuffed the poop back into the bell, then tossed its head and strutted with a swagger that defied all recognition, approaching Fang Chen. Its dog mouth curved into a smug grin, young little human, truly ignorant of society's dangers. Today, Lord Dog has taught you a harsh lesson. It looked Fang Chen up and down, its gaze first landing on the dog chain in Fang Chen's hand, and its three eyes simultaneously gleamed with greed. Wow, this chain is something special, capable of imprisoning a heaven-burying celestial beast. Now the chain and the heaven-burying celestial beast are both mine. First, I got 8 of your corpses for free, now I get a live one, plus a heaven-defying chain as a bonus. You truly are Lord Dog's lucky star. The big black dog lowered its head, using its mouth to pull the chain from Fang Chen's hand, muttering, "A live heaven-burying celestial beast is worth a fortune. There aren't many in the Myriad Heavens and 100 realms. If I take it and sell it, who knows how much coin it'll fetch. I'm rich, filthy rich." But just as the big black dog let its guard down, a sudden furious roar erupted from the pouch. Strike! The moment the command was given, Fang Chen instantly released his grip on the chain. The heaven-burying celestial beast, brimming with boundless ferocity with nowhere to vent, whipped its head around, and from that ferocious dragon, like maw, burst a torrent of terrifying divine might. Caught off guard, the big black dog froze on the spot, its eyes bulging wide as it cried out in shock. I fell for it. It tried the same trick again, immediately releasing a golden glow from its forehead. But before the glow could cover its body, the pouch at the poisoned body's waist burst open, and Fang Chen's true self shot out, a pitch black orb clutched in his palm. With a thought, he used spatial origin to directly send the orb into the big black dog's mouth. Fang Chen's gaze turned icy, and he immediately activated his divine ability, shouting fiercely, "Explode!" The black orb detonated, releasing streams of black liquid that poured down the big black dog's throat and into its stomach. All of this was sap secreted by the divine tree, the source of excruciating soul-rending agony. A few drops might not cause much suffering to a sage realm cultivator, but what about dozens or even 100 drops? When the golden glow finally covered its body and lifted the paralysis, the big black dog shrieked in terror, "You despicable brat, what did you make me eat? Awu tilde, awu tilde." Its eyes bulged wide as it began spinning wildly in place, letting out a series of pitiful dog howls. Clearly, the divine tree sap was taking effect. The heaven-burying celestial beast seized the opportunity and savagely bit at the big black dog. In extreme agony, the big black dog dodged frantically, avoiding vital points, but with a sickening crunch, its entire tail was cleanly bitten off. Already racked with excruciating pain, the big black dog now howled in even greater agony, "Awu tilde tilde." It ran wildly into the void on all fours, blood spraying from its rear. The heaven-burying celestial beast roared, unleashing divine might once more to stun the big black dog, then slapped it to the ground with a paw, and immediately opened its blood, oaked maw ferociously biting at its head. This bite would certainly crush the big black dog's head. Stop! Fang Chen gave the order in time. He couldn't let the big black dog die just yet. The heaven-burying celestial beast's bloody maw stopped just a centimeter from the big black dog's head. It still tried to break free from the dog chain's restraints, intent on forcibly devouring its prey. Fang Chen's expression changed slightly. He strained to tighten the chain, barely managing to control it. Indeed, as the mount of the giant saint, it is fiercely unmatched. Even gravely injured, once it recovers a little, it is so unruly. If it returned to its peak, I might not be able to make it obey orders. Remembering that even the little Killen had once broken free from this very chain, Fang Chen felt a twinge of unease. This dog chain cannot fully control the heaven, burying celestial beast. If one day it returns to its peak and suddenly turns on him, it wouldn't even need to bite. Just one glare would be enough to shatter his Dao body. Recalling the earlier attempt to secretly poison the sleeping heaven, burying celestial beast, Fang Chen's heart grew even colder. This heaven, burying celestial beast, must be dealt with. Keeping it close is a ticking time bomb. Suppressing his unease, Fang Chen looked down at the pinned big black dog and chuckled. Dead dog, still want to teach me about society's dangers. The big black dog clutched its head, trembling in pain, and barked loudly. Woof woof, the Central Plains schemes run deep. I want to go back to Nankian. Fang Chen sneered. Think you can leave? It won't be that easy. He grabbed through the air, yanking the dog collar from the big black dog's neck. Hanging on it were 3 bells, purple, orange, and black. He had already experienced the black bell, which contained grand heavenly feces. What the other 2 held was unknown. Never mind, I'll just take them for now. He pocketed the collar, then casually examined the big black dog, saying leisurely, I wonder if there's anyone in the Myriad Heavens and 100 realms who likes dog meat. A big black dog like this must be worth a lot, right? The big black dog's eyes bulged and it shouted, Eat dog, you heartless human. Fang Chen was momentarily stunned. Hearing heartless human somehow made him feel as though the entire human race was insulted. Suppressing the strange absurdity, he put on a half-joking, half-serious expression and said flatly, Even if I don't eat you, I'll still butcher you today. He didn't want to leave a 2 calamities realm threat by his side. Staring at the gaping maw of the heaven, burying celestial beast right before it, the big black dog shuddered and hurriedly cried, Even when beating a dog, you must consider its maw. Sir, do you know who my master is? It stiffened its neck, its voice carrying a fierce but brittle arrogance. He is the Emperor of Nankian, the one who unified the entire Nankian great world. Kill me, and you'll be waiting for big trouble. Fang Chen's expression grew slightly solemn. The dog of the Nankian Emperor. His mind raced. This 2 calamities realm big black dog could freely enter and leave the southern heaven realm without being ejected by the giant saint and the Asura saint, clearly showing those teeth. Woe had some reservations about the power behind it. A sharp chill gradually gathered in Fang Chen's eyes, his voice turning cold. Probably. No one knows you came to the southern heaven realm, right? The big black dog's heart leaped, a chill shooting straight to its head. Crap, this bastard is going to silence me. Its eyes rolled frantically, and it called out hurriedly, Wait, take all the bells. I swear on the heavens, for the rest of my dog life, I'll never seek revenge. Fang Chen's eyes showed no sign of wavering. Instead, they grew even colder. The big black dog's eyes darted wildly with anxiety, and it yelled again, Many know that I came to the southern heaven realm. If you kill me, both you and the Central Plains are doomed. Fang Chen tugged the dog chain in his hand, his gaze shifting slightly, and suddenly murmured thoughtfully, If it was the heaven, burying sacred beast that ate you after regaining its freedom, then all this would have nothing to do with me or the Central Plains. A thought took shape in his mind since keeping the heaven. Burying sacred beast around was a hidden danger. He might as well squeeze every last bit of value out of it. Release the heaven, burying sacred beast, and with its bone, deep hatred for the big black dog, it would surely devour it immediately. Hiss! All the fur on the big black dog's body stood on end as a chill shot from the tip of its tail straight to the crown of its head. This human's mind is just too deep, isn't it? Seeing Fang Chen begin to pull the chains, as if truly about to release the restraints on the heaven, burying sacred beast, the big black dog finally panicked completely. It shrieked urgently, Wait, what if I acknowledge you as my master? My life and death would be under your control, so you'd never need to worry about me turning on you again. Acknowledge a master. Fang Chen shifted his gaze, staring at it with a half-smile. Aren't you South Kaian's loyal guardian dog? So, one dog wants to serve 2 masters. The big black dog blurted out without thinking. That was before. I'm now the Central Plains' loyal guardian dog. In life, I'm a dog of the Central Plains. In death, my soul belongs to it. I swear to become the number 1 loyal dog of the Central Plains. Fang Chen raised his hand and massaged his brow. Looking at the swearing and cursing big black dog before him, a strong sense of déjà vu suddenly surged in his heart. Had he encountered a dog with such an eccentric style before? However, the big black dog's suggestion was indeed worth considering. Killing it would bring no small trouble, while not killing it would bring even greater trouble. If he could completely control it, that would be a compromise. But the problem was that it was a two-calamity sage. With his current strength, he might not be able to control it. Just then, several auras of Asura lords flickered into existence, one after another. It was Hong Xiu leading several Asura lords in searching for remnant souls nearby. At a glance, she saw Fang Chen riding the heaven, burying sacred beast, firmly suppressing a big black dog. Those icy, clear snow-like eyes of hers trembled violently. This guy, in just the time it took to turn around, had already stirred up such a huge incident. Her gaze swept over the scene, and she quickly understood the gist. She spoke coolly. This big black dog, hard to deal with. Fang Chen gave her a strange look. For some reason, when he spoke with the woman before him, it always gave him a subtle, strange illusion of interacting with Hong Xiu. He did not hide anything and explained the situation in a few words. Hong Xiu understood. Her gaze flickered. She took out a jade talisman, pressed it to her forehead, etched a strand of divine sense into it, and casually tossed it to Fang Chen. Oh, did she have something she couldn't say in public? Fang Chen caught the jade talisman and pressed it to his forehead. As expected, it contained a strand of Hong Xiu's divine sense. Controlling the soul of a powerful being is extremely difficult for others, but for you, it's as easy as turning your hand. Fang Chen was greatly astonished. At the core formation and nascent soul stages, relying on the soul slaying 3 styles, he could indeed be considered a grandmaster of the soul path. But at the deity transformation stage, this advantage had become somewhat mediocre, and against a sage level existence, it was completely useless. Now suddenly someone told him that he could easily control the soul of a powerhouse, which truly baffled him. The divine sense in the jade slip paused slightly, then continued, "The answer lies in the hell soul bell in your hand." Fang Chen's heart jolted. He had collected quite a few Hell Realm artifacts: the Hell Soul Bell, the Hell's Eye, the Life, and Death Brush and the Life, and Death Ledger. He had long figured out the functions of the latter 3, but this Hell Soul Bell, a realm artifact belonging to the Fengdu Domain's creation, Asura clan, had always eluded him. He quickly pressed the jade slip back to his forehead, imprinted his querying divine sense into it, and tossed it back to Hong Xiu. Hong Xiu caught the jade slip, already guessing what he wanted to ask, nothing more than how to use it. She took the initiative to speak. "Do you still remember your promise to aid us in the battle for the Southern Heaven Realm?" Fang Chen understood immediately upon hearing it. So that's why she was kindly reminding him she had been waiting for this moment. Very readily, he separately recorded a void map, clearly marking the location of the Sumeru Divine Prison, and casually tossed it over. "Take it." Hong Xiu caught the map and swept her senses inside. An uncontrollable fluctuation instantly overflowed from her snowy eyes. This place actually contained a saint's body. If she could bring this back to the Hell Realm, it would be a tremendous merit. Fang Chen added indifferently, "Let me remind you, the place is extremely dangerous, especially the second layer. Don't stay longer than 30 breaths, or else. Those beneath the Saint Realm will die." Hong Xiu's gaze shook violently. Was this place truly so perilous? But after a second thought, she accepted it. If it weren't an extremely ominous place, how could a saint's body have been left behind? She carefully put away the map and said softly, "Thanks." Hong Xiu knew in her heart that Fang Chen could have omitted that warning. After this battle for the Southern Heaven Realm, his attitude toward them had clearly become much friendlier. She no longer held back and inscribed everything she knew into the jade slip with her divine sense, then tossed it back to Fang Chen. The big black dog squatted to the side, its eyeballs shifting suspiciously, and muttered, "You two making eyes at each other. Are you having a love affair?" Fang Chen glared fiercely at it, then pressed the jade slip to his forehead and carefully read the divine sense within. The Hell Soul Bell is a soul-type realm artifact. It can defend and also trap enemy souls. Just this first sentence made Fang Chen's pupils suddenly contract. A soul-type realm artifact. Hong Xiu's divine sense continued. "The Lord of the Netherworld once asked you for the Hell Soul Bell. Have you ever wondered why she would want it?" The Lord of the Netherworld was Hua Xin. Fang Chen's thoughts instantly ignited. Hua Xin's remnant soul had been sealed by the white, robed skeleton inside a stitched female angel's body, which was branded with 9 colored thunder marks. These marks served both as a means to destroy enemies and as a shackle to prevent Hua Xin from leaving the corpse. If she forcibly left, the marks would trigger and completely annihilate her remnant soul. If Hua Xin could obtain the Hell Soul Bell, she could use it to protect her soul and win true freedom. Fang Chen suddenly realized, I should have thought of this long ago. Back in the Hell Realm, Hua Xin asked me for the life, and Death Brush and the Hell Soul Bell, but she never asked for the Hell's Eye. If she were just greedy for realm artifacts, she wouldn't have left one out. Clearly, she needed this bell for something important. Hong Xiu's voice continued, when activated, the Hell Soul Bell can protect the soul and fend off external attacks. The method of activation is to sacrifice souls. You can sacrifice your own or someone else's. The stronger the sacrificed soul, the stronger the defensive power the bell unleashes. So it requires soul sacrifice. Fang Chen's mind suddenly became clear. No wonder he had puzzled over it for so long and never found the way to use it. As for the other function, trapping enemy souls, it also requires a sacrifice. The amount depends on how strong the enemy soul you need to trap is. This too calamity beast before you, since it's willing to acknowledge a master. It will certainly hand over a small strand of its soul for you to keep. You only need to sacrifice an equal amount of soul, and you can imprison the part it surrendered forever within the Hell Soul Bell. Unless it reaches the Saint Realm, don't expect to retrieve it. If it ever harbors treacherous thoughts in the future, you just need to shake the Hell Soul Bell, and it will obediently listen. After hearing all this, Fang Chen's eyes gleamed with sharp light, eager to try. He turned to the big black dog, but deliberately put on a troubled expression, musing, after careful consideration, I still think it's best to eliminate you to prevent future troubles. Then he abruptly shifted his tone, donning a look of compassion. But as the saying goes, heaven has the virtue of cherishing life. I'll just consider it an act of accumulating virtue this time. Hand over a strand of your soul and acknowledge me as your master from now on, and I will spare your life.
Huh?
The big black dog was cursing fiercely in its heart. This dog thing that was more of a dog than a real dog. Was there even a single hair on his body that had anything to do with cherishing life? This dog thing definitely has a trick.
But it did too.
The big black dog instantly squeezed out a face full of tearful gratitude, its voice even trembling with emotion. Master truly has a bodhisattva's heart. I'll split off a strand of my soul and offer it to you right away. It tremblingly extended its paw, lightly clawed at its forehead, and let out a shrill, miserable howl. A wisp of soul thread, finer than a dog's hair, was carefully extracted by it. Master, with this, you can decide my life or death at any time. Now I hand it, completely over to you. Fang Chen grabbed the soul thread, his gaze flickering slightly. The big black dog lowered its head, its eyes furtively darting about, while inwardly sneering, insolent human filth. A mere divine transformation realm dares to grasp the soul of a second calamity existence. Just you wait. Soon this old dog will teach you the meaning of humility. Fang Chen eagerly took out the pitch black Hell Soul Bell, then brought out the small tower that imprisoned many souls. Most of the souls inside the tower belonged to half-giants, making them perfectly suitable for sacrifice. He raised his hand and forced a portion of the souls into the Hell Soul Bell with his mana, then grasped the bell and shook it gently. A series of piercing shrieks echoed from within the bell as the souls were instantly crushed into specks of light and wholly absorbed into it. The Hell Soul Bell, originally in black, gradually transformed into a two-toned pattern of intertwined red and black. On its red areas, countless phantom chains faintly emerged, while on the black areas, the pattern of a ferocious, gaping maw solidified. Fang Chen had a sudden realization. He instantly understood that the red region represented the power to trap enemies, while the black region was the profound place to resist soul attacks. Fang Chen reached out, grabbed the wisp of soul from the big black dog, and pressed it onto the red region of the soul bell. In the next moment, a phantom of a small black dog, its neck tightly bound by chains, appeared within the pattern. Imprisonment successful. With a flash in his eyes, he suddenly tightened the phantom chains and shouted heavily, "Release it." The heaven-burying holy beast let out a low, unwilling roar and slowly lifted the paw, pressing down on the black dog. The big black dog flipped over, nimbly scrambled up, and then shot off like a black bolt of lightning to a distance, hopping and cursing. Ha! Wang Qingxiao, you yellow-haired brat. Today's grudge is irreconcilable. Just wait for my southern Caiyan's great army to press the border and annihilate your central plains. Watching this, Fang Chen burst out laughing, inwardly noting that this dog's mood swung faster than flipping a page without even a night's delay. Both annoyed and amused, he said, "Dead dog, did you forget that I still hold a strand of your soul in my hand?" Hearing this, the big black dog sneered coldly, raised its neck, and yelled at the top of its lungs, You think my soul is that easy to control? Kerr, get back here. Inside the Hell Soul Bell, the small black dog phantom, chained up, immediately wagged its tail excitedly and tried to rush out. But the chains bound it tightly, preventing escape. The big black dog was stunned and said in shock and doubt, "You can actually trap a soul of the second calamity realm." Fang Chen held the bell and chuckled. "I can not only keep your soul fragment, but also make you obediently come back." As soon as he finished speaking, he gently shook the Hell Soul Bell in his hand. A crisp, pleasing chime rang out in all directions, and the red region on the soul bell suddenly transformed into a blazing inferno. The phantom of the small black dog trapped inside was instantly burned, howling miserably with extreme anguish. In reality, the big black dog suddenly rolled on the ground in agony, letting out pitiful dog yelps. It seemed countless times more painful than the divine wood liquid. Its black body turned red, hot like a branding iron, with black smoke rising all over. Then, the red region transformed into a cauldron of boiling oil. The big black dog's pain immediately intensified, and it cried out repeatedly, "Stop, stop it. I know I was wrong." Fang Chen did not stop and continued to activate the bell. The red region then successively turned into a giant millstone that crushed the small black dog mercilessly, and finally into a guillotine that sliced the small black dog in half at the waist. Burning, frying, grinding, and beheading, 4 great tortures in turn. All the tortures of hell were brought to bear. The big black dog's eyes rolled back in agony, its blood and chi reversed, and strands of its demonic innate talents flickered unsteadily. It had lost more than half of its life. Foaming at the mouth, it said with difficulty, "Master, I was wrong. I won't dare again, never again." Fang Chen revealed a satisfied expression. He mused inwardly that even a great demon of the second calamity realm had been tormented to this extent. The Hell Soul Bell's enemy, trapping effect far exceeded his expectations. Fang Chen let out a light snort and glanced sideways at the big black dog. This time, you can't afford not to be the Central Plains' most loyal dog. The big black dog panted heavily and said humbly, "Dahe is willing to serve at your side, master, through thick and thin, without hesitation." Fang Chen stroked his chin and said, "First tell me, what other abilities do you have that I haven't seen?" "If they're useless, I'll toss you into a sack and lock you up, lest you get any more crooked ideas." The most special thing about this dog was the third eye on its forehead, capable of both offense and defense, quite eerie. Aside from that, he didn't know what other skills it had. Fearing permanent imprisonment, the big black dog hurriedly said, "I can also track enemies. Just give me a trace of their aura, and I can track them across realms." Fang Chen's eyes lit up upon hearing this. "Oh, cross-realm tracking, that's quite impressive." His heart stirred as he recalled that he still had a huge hidden danger unresolved, and this kind of tracking ability was exactly what he needed. Fang Chen immediately took out a soul, devouring hot grass, casually tossed it to the big black dog, and said, "Restore your soul as quickly as possible." The big black dog caught it in its jaws and started chewing noisily, but inwardly it was seething with rage, cursing the lad secretly, deciding to endure the humiliation and bide its time for future revenge. While the big black dog was healing, Fang Chen turned and cupped his fists in gratitude toward the quietly standing Sake, Asura Empress Hongxiu. Many thanks, Sake Asura Empress. If not for her previous guidance, this Hell Soul Bell would probably still be gathering dust and ash. As for this big black dog, he probably wouldn't have been able to handle it either. Hongxiu nodded lightly and asked, "What are your plans from now on?" Fang Chen's thoughts were clear, and he answered without hesitation. First, fulfill the promise to the celestial sages and help them expel the dark creatures, then prepare for the dark tide. Hongxiu looked thoughtful and asked further, "Several celestial sages fled in the face of battle earlier. Do you still intend to help them?" Fang Chen said without hesitation, "Help fighting dark creatures knows no distinction of world or race. Of course, they will have to pay a much greater price for it." Hongxiu was not surprised. Fang Chen's breadth of vision had always been like this. Fang Chen looked at her, curious. "Oh, by the way, I also have a question for you." Hongxiu nodded slightly. "Please speak." Fang Chen touched his chin and probed, "Who is your husband? How is it that he serves in the Great Kayan?" Hongxiu's expression stiffened. She stared straight at Fang Chen and said coldly, "He is not a good man." Fang Chen immediately felt a bit embarrassed, realizing he seemed to have asked something he shouldn't have, and quickly said, "Sorry, I didn't know you were at odds with your husband." Hongxiu calmly said, "It's not too late to know now. He is a cold-blooded and heartless man who wouldn't blink an eye to put me to death." Fang Chen couldn't help but secretly click his tongue in shock. "That's too ruthless, isn't it? Can husband and wife be so vicious to each other?" He couldn't help but think again that King Jiu was so beautiful and had such high cultivation. If she were his wife, he would surely dote on her endlessly for days and nights. Hong Xiu added, "He is also insidious, cunning, shameless, and despicable, a very troublesome person." Fang Chen was speechless, sighing inwardly that there was such a quintessential terrible man in the world. King Jiu truly had bad luck in meeting people. He sighed lightly and said, "I shouldn't comment on your family matters, but if this man can still turn back, then live a good life with him." 1,000 years of cultivation to share a pillow, such fate comes with great difficulty. So cherish it as you go. Hearing the words, share a pillow, Hong Xiu couldn't help but recall that absurd scene in the tent. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and said coldly, "This kind of fate, it's better to end it quickly." Fang Chen secretly clicked his tongue, wondering just how deep the hatred between these two could be. Hong Xiu calmed down and said, "All right, I still need to go search for remnant souls in other places. Farewell." Fang Chen pondered for a moment, then called out to her, "Fellow Taoist King Jiu, hold on a moment." He flipped his hand and took out a Moon Realm shard, handed it over, and said, "This is a communication artifact. I'm temporarily lending it to you for use in the Southern Heaven Realm." He had already planned to secretly entrust the Asura race to resolve a hidden danger. That is, to eliminate the members of the Dark Asura clan. He had not forgotten that in the Southern Heaven Realm, besides the ancient giants, there lurked a remnant of the Dark Asura clan. These remnants were also a hidden threat, best eliminated as soon as possible. However, unlike the universally condemned ancient giants, the Dark Asura clan might not all be utterly depraved. If the cultivators of the Central Plains were to wipe them out, it would likely provoke considerable resistance. Therefore, it would be better to leave it to King Jiu and the others to handle themselves. Gazing at the Moonrealm fragment extended before her, Hong Xiu couldn't help but stand frozen on the spot. Back then, when she had broken with Fang Chen over their stances, this Moonrealm had been taken back by Fang Chen. Now, by a strange twist of fate, it was once again presented before her. What made her feel fate was toying with her even more was that she had just said, "Let this destiny be extinguished," and then this Moonrealm that bound their destinies together had returned right after. Fang Chen saw her dazed and urged, "What are you staring for? Take it." Hong Xiu pursed her red lips, silent for 3 breaths. Then with a complicated gaze, she reached out and took it, whispering, "All right. Contact me if anything comes up." With that, she swiftly departed with the Asura emperors. Fang Chen turned to look at the big black dog and saw that it had recovered somewhat from its soul injuries. He immediately took out a pouch, the same pouch that had once temporarily held Princess Zijing captive. Fang Chen asked, "Can you smell the ore inside?" The big black dog wagged its newly grown tail and ran forward obsequiously, sticking its dog nose into the pouch to sniff carefully. It replied, "The scent of a female giant, and also the aura of the origin of time." Fang Chen asked, "Can you lock onto her location?" The big black dog lifted its head, its nose inhaling forcefully toward the void, and uttered a low chant, "Boundless heaven and earth, track across 10,000 miles." Moments later, it suddenly looked in a certain direction and declared, "There." Meanwhile, let us speak of a corner of the heavenly realm, far from the imperial court, where the world barrier of the southern heaven realm was at its weakest. The silver moon great sovereign was aimlessly searching there, his expression extremely grim. "Damn it, let alone the giant king, even those ordinary ancient giants have been mostly slaughtered by them. They're not leaving a single scrap of credit for me." Just as this thought surged, a sharp tearing sound ripped through the air, as if the entire world's barrier had been forcibly torn apart by some brute force. The silver moon great sovereign's spirit jolted, and without hesitation he flew swiftly toward the source of the sound. He parted the layers of clouds and saw a hidden valley below. In the middle of the valley, a void passage over 10 feet wide had been forcibly torn open. A purple female giant 80 feet tall was laboriously prying open that rift, more than half her body already squeezed in, about to escape completely. A purple female giant. The silver moon great sovereign frowned slightly, quickly recollected in his mind, then his pupils suddenly contracted, and he blurted out involuntarily, "Isn't this that purple Im-san Princess Fang Chen captured before?" A greedy smile curled at the corner of his mouth as he muttered to himself, "She is the daughter of the Central Emperor. If I can capture her, that would be quite a significant merit, wouldn't it?" Seeing the purple crimson princess struggling to pry open that void rift with half her body already through, the silver moon great sovereign decisively flipped his palm, gathering a cluster of cold, clear moonlight. Then with a wave of his hand, the moonlight abruptly transformed into a long chain, shooting forward like a silver serpent emerging from its lair, and locked tightly around the purple crimson princess's waist. The silver moon great sovereign yanked his 5 fingers back fiercely and coldly shouted, "Get back here." The silver moon great sovereign's cultivation far exceeded the purple crimson princess's by countless times. With this pull, she was dragged back without any resistance. The purple crimson princess stumbled and fell to the ground, then sharply raised her head to look at the great sovereign before her, whose cultivation had reached the 5 decays of heaven and man, her vertical pupils trembling violently. She had never expected that at the last moment of her escape, she would be blocked here by a 5 decays great sovereign of the human race. She was truly unlucky, yet upon deeper thought, there was a sliver of fortune. The misfortune was that the enemy she encountered was far stronger than her. The fortune was that the opponent was at the 5 decays of heaven and man. The purple crimson princess quickly steadied her mind, raised her hand, and took out a strange pouch, which was stuffed full of precious fortune. For these 5 decays powerhouses who could not step into the sage realm through merit, fortune was their final path to ascension. She stared at the silver moon great sovereign and said in a deep voice, "Let me go, and this pouch of fortune will be yours." Fortune. The silver moon great sovereign was shocked upon hearing this, and immediately the greedy light in his eyes began to flicker and change dramatically. A sage who walks the path of fortune can never advance further in this life, unless they walk the old path of the 10 sins of the central plains, drawing upon the resentment of all living beings, but that is a completely irreversible path of no return. However, the path of merit had long since been closed to him. The central plains had already suppressed the netherworld realm and destroyed the southern heaven realm. In the future, such cataclysmic wars would no longer erupt. Even if he spent the rest of his life, he likely could not gather enough merit to enter the sage realm. Fortune was now the only path. But why couldn't he cleanly devour this opportunity, obtaining both the fortune and the capture of the purple crimson princess? The purple crimson princess's eyes were sharp. She saw through his thoughts at a glance and couldn't help but snort lightly. "Put away those petty, unseemly schemes of yours." As she spoke, she suddenly tightened her grip on the pouch. With just a little force, she could instantly burst it, releasing all the fortune inside. The silver moon great sovereign's face turned dark and uncertain. He cursed inwardly. This female giant is truly a tough nut to crack. He pondered for a moment, and seeing that things couldn't be forced, he could only grit his teeth and say, "Put down the pouch, and you may leave." With those words, he waved his palm, and the moonlight chain, binding the purple crimson princess's waist, retracted. The purple crimson princess extended her long, scarlet tongue, winding it tightly around the pouch, leaving it in the southern heaven realm, while she herself once again slipped into that void. The silver moon great sovereign's gaze flickered several times, mana surging in his palm as he wanted to strike, but each time he feared the pouch held in midair by that long tongue. In the end, he could only watch helplessly as the purple crimson princess left the southern heaven realm, filled with resentment. Once outside, the purple crimson princess released her tongue and let go of the pouch. The silver moon great sovereign, extremely excited, immediately grabbed it into his palm. He couldn't wait to probe inside, and a look of ecstasy surged on his face. It was indeed dense, rich fortune. This fortune was enough for him to step into the sage realm. He couldn't help but throw his head back and laugh heartily. "Ha ha ha, I finally have the opportunity to become a sage. Fang Chen, I'll enter the sage realm before you. If the moon sovereign also becomes a sage, then we too will fulfill our promise and become Tao companions. At that time, you'll only be able to stand by and watch." Thinking of the moon sovereign's graceful figure, as beautiful as the moon palace's Chang fairy, his eyes couldn't help but reveal excitement and desire. Finally, he glanced at that void rift and sneered, "Heh, this female giant is quite trustworthy." He had thought the other party would definitely break their word and take the fortune away, but unexpectedly, it was truly left behind. He quickly put away the fortune, glanced around vigilantly, and after confirming no one was there, immediately flashed away stealthily. After all, trading with the ancient giants and letting them go, if the Central Plains learned of this, he would certainly be branded a traitor. Meanwhile, in that silent void of extinction, the purple crimson princess shook her head slightly, revealing a disdainful sneer on her face, and murmured, "Good, he's just a fool. If it were Fang Chen instead, he would first scheme to trick away my fortune, then use thunderous measures to capture me back. That would be truly obtaining both the person and the wealth." Thinking of this, she extended her slender fingers and gently brushed the origin star on her forehead. A strand of the origin of time's power surged out, projecting before her. As the light swirled, it vividly recorded the entire scene of the Silver Moon Great Sovereign's transaction with her just now. She then took out a pitch-black bone, deeply inscribed this projection into it, and with a flick of her finger, the bone turned into a stream of light, shooting straight toward the distant central plains. Purple Crimson Princess's gaze was cold. Looking toward where the light had vanished, she said icily, "Do you think my fortune is so easily taken? Just wait obediently for your body and soul to be utterly destroyed in the central continent." With that, she flicked her sleeve, and a torrent of primordial time energy surged out, forming a cocoon of light that enveloped her as she sped toward the deepest depths of the void. Not long after, Fang Chen, riding the big black dog and dragging a colossal fierce beast behind him, traced the trail all the way to this place. The big black dog lowered its head, sniffed vigorously with its nose, and said in a muffled voice, "The scent disappeared right around here." "It seems, master, you are a step too late. The other party has already fled into the void." Fang Chen nodded slightly, not appearing overly surprised. Purple Crimson Princess had been free for so long. With her intelligence and seasoned methods, the chance she could escape was indeed high. The big black dog's eyes swiveled cunningly twice as it probed. "Master, do you want me to charge out and chase her?" Fang Chen glanced at it and instantly saw through this dead dog's crooked schemes. He pondered briefly, then waved his hand and said, "Forget it. First, chasing now doesn't guarantee we'll catch her. Second, after this battle, she most likely won't return to the central continent. As long as she doesn't come to trouble the central continent, and only comes looking for me alone, then it matters little. As he later travels to the Myriad Heavens and 100 Realms to fulfill the lease contract of the Truce Monument, the sages of the central continent will experience an explosive growth. By that time, unless Purple Crimson Princess is a fool, she will absolutely not dare to set her sights on the central continent again." The big black dog's ears drooped in secret disappointment. It had originally wanted to use this chance to test whether, once it ran far enough, the Hell Soul Bell's influence on it might weaken accordingly. Unfortunately, Fang Chen was always on guard against it and never gave it that opportunity. While the big black dog was grumbling inwardly, a black robe suffused with karmic hindrances was suddenly thrust right under its nose. This was precisely the robe worn by that Guiyang wicked sage, whom Fang Chen and Dongfeng Canyu had teamed up to slay earlier. That person still had a wisp of residual soul left. It was unknown whether those sages had ferreted it out. Now this robe was perfect for the big black dog to use to search for it. Fang Chen asked in a deep voice, "Where is he?" The big black dog twitched its nose and exclaimed in surprise, "Oh, it's that one." Fang Chen's brow arched. "What, you've seen it before?" The big black dog chuckled slyly and said, "It's hiding in that liquefied spiritual energy lake inside the world embryo. I discovered it back then, but I was too lazy to bother with a measly remnant soul." World embryo, a lake of liquefied spiritual energy. Fang Chen was momentarily stunned. Could it be referring to the purple, green, immortal mountain? But why did the big black dog call it the world embryo? Whatever, there's no time to dwell on it now. Let's charge over there first. Purple, green, immortal mountain. Upon that boundless, mist-shrouded lake of liquefied spiritual energy, an exquisite jade, carved phoenix throne hovered right at the center of the lake's surface. Yi Banksia wore an ink black dress, her long, graceful legs crossed as she reclined lazily against the back of the chair. In her hand she held a black jade rui scepter, her expression as calm and unruffled as a cloudless breeze. Yi Banksia's gaze was indifferent as she looked down upon the lake below, her voice utterly calm without a ripple. "How much longer are you going to hide?" With a sharp whoosh, a thumb-sized remnant soul, shrouded in thick karmic hindrances, burst violently out of the lake. The remnant soul had a sinister, malicious face. Who else could it be but the Guiyang wicked sage? Due to being tangled with karmic hindrances for so long, its soul had turned a bizarre light black, gradually deviating from the normal scope of souls. The Guiyang wicked sage roared ferociously. A mere 8 apertures nascent soul dares to provoke this elder. It transformed into a soul afterimage and shot straight toward Yi Banksia's glabella, but in the instant the remnant soul was about to touch her glabella. At Yi Banksia's glabella, the mark of a strange little tree suddenly appeared. The Guiyang wicked sage's plunging momentum came to an abrupt halt, its face twisting in ultimate terror as it shrieked. The ancient soul tree. "You are from that place." Instantly, its face filled with dread, it tried to turn and flee, but from that little tree mark, a crystalline tree root shot out with lightning speed and wrapped tightly around Hikiyong, wicked sage, remnant soul. Then, with a scream that cut off abruptly, the root coiled around it and retracted directly back into the little tree mark. The mark of the little tree seemed to receive some nourishment, faintly brightening a bit. Yibanxia lazily toyed with the jade Rui in her hand and murmured to herself with lingering regret. If only there could be a few more souls, but it seems I won't have the chance. She lifted her clear, cold eyes and cast them toward the distance. The little tree mark on her forehead silently faded away. Soon, Fang Chen arrived swiftly, riding the big black dog and dragging the fierce beast. The big black dog sniffed vigorously, looking with complete bafflement toward Yibanxia on the lake before it. In its perception, the aura of that remnant soul had ultimately vanished right in front of this woman. But she clearly was only an 8 apertures nascent soul. The big black dog, full of suspicion, began to scrutinize her from head to toe. At first, it didn't think anything was amiss, but when its gaze swept over Yibanxia's forehead, the third large golden eye on its forehead suddenly trembled violently, a dire warning of immense danger. Just as when Fang Chen had ambushed it before, this eye had sounded a similar alarm. Only, this time, the warning was far more intense than before. The big black dog instinctively wanted to cry out, but its dog eye swiveled, and it immediately feigned nonchalance, simply mumbling vaguely, "That remnant soul seems to have prepared right around here." In its heart, it fervently wished Fang Chen would offend this extremely dangerous woman and be slapped dead by her. That way, it might have hope of breaking free. Fang Chen also saw Yibanxia at this moment, clear surprise showing on his face as he called out, "Senior Sister Yi, why are you here?" The big black dog was instantly dumbfounded. What the? These two are actually from the same sect. Yibanxia gave him a sidelong glance, tapped with her jade hand, stirring the spatial power of the jade, carved phoenix thrown beneath her, making as if to leave. A sharp glint flashed in Fang Chen's eyes as he said loudly, "Senior Sister Yi, please stay." He had long wanted to have a proper talk with this senior sister of unknown origin, but had been frustrated by a lack of opportunity. Now that the rebellion in the southern heaven realm had been quelled, it was time to deal with the hidden perils deep within the central continent. Yibanxia gently swung her snow-white, slender legs, lazily propping her chin with one hand, her tone flat and casual. "What is it?" Fang Chen did not beat around the bush and spoke directly. "Has Senior Sister Yi found the great void divine tree?" Yibanxia's swaying legs suddenly froze midair, the lazy look on her face instantly vanished, and her elegantly reclined body slowly straightened up. In those clearly black and white eyes, deep gravity surged. "When did you learn my identity?" In her mind, she rapidly replayed every contact with Fang Chen, but couldn't detect where she had slipped up. Little did she know that it was her martial niece Ziajiaj who had spilled everything like beans from a bamboo tube, that all the realms were searching for the great void divine tree. Coupled with Yibanxia's identity as a member of the celestial Asura clan, her purpose in the central continent needed no further explanation. Fang Chen smiled lightly, his tone gentle. "Senior Sister Yi, no need to be nervous. If I truly intended to act against you, it wouldn't be this scene now." Yibanxia mulled it over. Indeed, that was true. Fang Chen always acted with swift decisiveness. If he really had killing intent, he'd never have waited until now, nor spoken with her so candidly. Her creamy white legs began swaying leisurely again. "Then how does junior brother plan to deal with me?" Fang Chen shook his head. "Senior sister overstates it. Though you are born of the celestial Asura clan, since joining the Heavenly Secrets Pavilion, you have never committed evil. You even helped remodel the underground palace formations and assisted in sealing the hell beasts of the central continent. Judging by deeds, not heart, up until now, you deserve to be treated as my senior sister." Yibanxia raised her delicate, snow-white chin slightly and teased. "Being your senior sister didn't stop you from knocking me out and stealing my jade, carved phoenix throne." That was still a past incident from when the two were together in the underground world of the old Heavenly Secrets Pavilion. At that time, Yibanxia used formations to scheme against Fang Chen and Ren Guhang, snatching the dragon heart blood lotus. Fang Chen, in turn, gave her a taste of her own medicine and seized her jade phoenix throne. Back then, both sides were gnashing their teeth in fury. Now, looking back, it held a peculiar charm. Fang Chen smiled gently. "Senior Sister Yi, what are your plans now? Will you continue searching for the divine tree of the Great Void, / Banksia shot him a sidelong glance and huffed. Since you've already discovered it, what's the point in keeping it? You're so paranoid. The day something untoward happens to the heavenly secret pavilion, I'll be the first one you suspect. The implication in her words was that she intended to leave the central continent. A flicker of reluctance slipped quietly through Fang Chen's heart. Although their paths had crossed little, Banksia was, after all, an old acquaintance who had come all the way from the same continent. Yet this was already the best possible outcome. He truly could not rest easy letting Banksia remain in the heavenly secret pavilion indefinitely. Departure was the best choice for them both. Fang Chen's voice took on a slightly heavier tone. Senior Sister Yi, is there anything you'd like me to pass on? Banksia folded her arms over her chest, tilting her fair neck upward. Hearing the trace of sorrow in Fang Chen's voice, her gaze softened as well. After a few breaths of silence, she said softly, do not blame yourself. My search for the divine tree of the great void was fruitless to begin with. I had originally planned to leave anyway. As for messages, She pondered for a moment, then said slowly, tell the pavilion master to take good care of his health, and thank him for his trust over the years on my behalf. Fang Chen caught the underlying meaning. The pavilion master likely knew a few things about Banksia's origins. Thinking back carefully, when the demon emperor of the Azure Sky and Ling Shu held their grand wedding, the pavilion master had accompanied Fang Chen and exclusively invited Banksia to come along. Toward her, the pavilion master had always harbored a quietly intriguing trust. Certain details had been visible even then, though Fang Chen had not realized it at the time. Fang Chen nodded, I will, Banksia waved her sleeve and said flatly, that's all, farewell, The jade phoenix thrown beneath her, once again, stirred strands of spatial force. Fang Chen took out the dog bowl, then retrieved the void feather cloak from his person and placed it inside, instantly duplicating a copy. He tossed it toward her. I know you might not need it, but this is something I have prepared for every member of the Heavenly Secret Pavilion. This is your share. Banksia stretched out her hand to receive it. Lines of softness crossed her aloof face, and her cherry lips parted slightly. When you're bad, you're truly bad. But when you're good, you can really touch people's hearts. No wonder all the fairies in the Heavenly Secret Pavilion have lost their hearts to you one by one. She stroked the void feather cloak for a moment, then with a trace of warmth in her eyes, she draped it over herself and said softly, thank you, junior brother Fang. The road between heaven and earth is long. We'll meet again if fate allows. Fang Chen cupped his fists in farewell. Safe journey, senior sister Yi. Banksia lightly tapped the armrest with her finger, suddenly recalling something. After a brief hesitation, she drew her slender finger gently across her forehead. A translucent leaf abruptly materialized at her fingertip. With a flick of her finger, the leaf drifted toward Fang Chen, almost forgot. Let me give you a parting gift as well. Fang Chen accepted it with both hands and asked in astonishment, what is this? Banksia rolled her eyes at him in annoyance. Something to help you chase women. This leaf can kill souls. Kill souls. Fang Chen was momentarily stunned with just this tiny, transparent leaf. And what did she mean by chasing women?
Wait.
He suddenly understood. This leaf could kill the Moon Sovereign's soul.
Banksia gently rubbed her temple and said helplessly, a person of unblemished character like me, helping you commit wickedness right before I leave, don't ever say this leaf came from me.
Fang Chen felt deeply moved. He and Banksia had almost no personal bond, yet she still kept his affairs in her heart. He asked solemnly, senior sister Yi, which world are you from? I will visit you if I get the chance. Banksia shook her head slightly, her voice as light as the breeze. Very far. It's likely you won't be able to come. Let's leave it at that. We've already said farewell twice. Is there really any need for more parting words? Fang Chen smiled and said stubbornly, let's say it one more time. Perhaps this is the last time we shall ever see each other. We'll meet again someday. We'll meet again. But how many of those meetings truly have a day of return? Banksia's eyes flickered. A faint shimmer seemed to flow within them. She gazed at Fang Chen with deep intensity and said solemnly, junior brother Fang, take care. Fang Chen returned a cupped fist salute. Senior sister Yi, take care. Banksia's raised, slender finger paused in midair for 3 breaths before finally descending with a soft grace. The jade phoenix throne, carrying her figure clad in that long black dress, vanished elegantly over the vast mist-laden lake. Fang Chen stood there alone, lost in melancholy for a long while. The big black dog rolled its eyes and sidled up, Master, if you can't bear to part, then just keep her here. Backslash.
We dogs have a saying, to capture a female dog's heart, you must first capture a stomach. Backslash.
Hearing this, Fang Chen furrowed his brows. Do dogs go in for cooking? Backslash. The big black dog rubbed its two paws together and said with a lecherous grin, I'm talking about a stomach you can reach in one step. Backslash.
Backslash.
Fang Chen still didn't get it. He paused in slight bafflement, and only when he glimpsed the big black dog's utterly obscene expression did it dawn on him. He couldn't help but kick the big black dog, flying in rage, roaring, Damn dog, backslash. That big black dog had nothing decent in its entire body. Still, this crude remark managed to break the dispirited mood around them. Fang Chen gazed at the spirit, energy lake beneath his feet. His figure flickered, and he appeared above the herb garden. With a mere thought, the two swords, purple lightning and green frost, flew out in unison. The artifact spirit of the purple lightning sword, a handsome and noble-looking youth, slowly materialized. It was none other than the holy angel artifact spirit. He turned around, his voice tinged with emotion. I never thought you would actually be able to conquer a corner of the celestial realm. Backslash. However, those two Saint Realm entities still remain, and they are ultimately a hidden danger. Backslash. He raised his head to look at the firmament, his expression turning exceptionally grave. Fang Chen's expression grew equally solemn. Although the giant emperor and the Asura emperor had been vanquished, those two Saint Realm beings still eyed them covetously. He said in a deep voice, no matter. In the current world, the Tao slaves act as a deterrent. They dare not manifest, not even a single wisp of their aura. Backslash. The holy angel artifact spirit's expression remained heavy. That is not what I meant. Backslash. Now that the southern celestial realm is gradually being occupied by humans, will they still protect it and repel the invading sages from beyond? Backslash. Fang Chen's expression was calm. He had already pondered this question long before the expedition to the celestial realm. The southern celestial realm could be laid to waste, but it could not truly be occupied. The reason lay precisely with those two Saint Realm beings. The central continent had slaughtered their clansmen. How could they not harbor hatred? If foreign enemies truly invaded the southern celestial realm and came to massacre the human powerhouses stationed there, would they step forward to stop them? They would welcome even more foreign foes rushing into the southern celestial realm, slaughtering every last human here. Thus, the central continent's rallying cry had always been to obliterate the southern celestial realm, not to seize it. Fang Chen said slowly, Senior, there is no need to worry. We anticipated this long ago. After we pacify the southern celestial realm, we will swiftly strip all its resources and then withdraw. Backslash. As for the southern celestial realm itself, whoever wants it, let them take it. Backslash. The holy angel artifact spirit revealed a relieved look. That is good. Then I will take purple lightning and green frost into the mountain to be nurtured. Backslash. If all goes smoothly, both swords will become quasi-realm artifacts, though it will take quite some time. Backslash. This was precisely the purpose of Fang Chen's visit to the purple azure immortal mountain. He cupped his fists and said, Senior, please go ahead. Backslash.